Is it working? Can you guys hear me? Wait. Oh, it is. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Is it working? Hello! I figured this out. Oh my gosh. I am just so new to all of this. So thanks for bearing with me. Yes, I can hear you. Okay. I'm going to try to watch it like this so I can see your guys's live. You guys, yeah, okay. Sorry. This is so confusing to me because I'm trying with OBS. So it's a new process for me, but I can see it's working now. Thanks for the comments. I love you guys. Wow, this is so cool. Okay, YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much. I love you, and I'm so honored that I get to go to the courthouse and share with you what I learned in there and stand up for justice and survivors. And I love you guys for doing that as well with me. So it's like always been challenging for me to like go live and just talk, like I can do it on the stories. So bear with me and don't be afraid to talk to me in the chat so I can hang out with you guys and just keep this casual and less stressful since it's new. But wow, yesterday was such a big day. I got to the courthouse really early. We had 2 hearings that were really important. The first hearing was Elijah Blue Allman's hearing. Cher has attempted to put him into a conservatorship. I saw that it was the same day as Britney Spears' hearing, and I was like, I have to show up. I'm going to go there early. So I did. And that was actually good. Like, it was a win for Elijah. So I want to kind of like go back and forth between the cases. I know most of you guys know me from Britney Spears' court hearings. I've been attending her court hearings for like years now, which I can't believe it's been that long. But it takes a long time in this justice system, and I just wanted to represent all of you in the courtroom and let the judges know that we're watching them, and that they can't operate in a vacuum anymore, that we will be there and we will share what's happening as it pertains to like our public interest and our human rights. Really, these conservatorships are so dangerous, and I've learned so much from Britney Spears and everything that she's endured, her strength to really inspire me to do this work. So that's why I keep going, and I will continue to keep going. So I guess I'll get into like my order. Like I went there early, so I'll start out in order that I was there at the 10:30 hearing. I talk about it with BJ. I'm really like new to that hearing, to Elijah Blue's hearing, to his conservatorship case. I heard about it just, I'm sure all of you did recently, and I tuned into BJ as she is our conservatorship whisperer and dives into those court documents. She has that legal experience, so I did watch her videos and got as caught up as I could before the hearing. And I will say that the first thing I noticed in that hearing was how absurd it is that the media gets to go in with their laptops and we don't. Like, I've been a member of the public going to these hearings for a while now, and it was upsetting even just that they let the media in first and that they get the best seats, because sometimes I have trouble hearing, and with Britney's case, Luna speaks very quiet sometimes, so it's hard for me to hear. A lot of people haven't always gone to her case, so just more recently, so I have been able to kind of like, get a better seat and whatnot. But in this case, there was a lot more press with Cher's case, and they took up a lot of the space, and they had their laptops out, And they were just also, I will say, the typing on the laptop is so loud that it was also very frustrating for me because I'm trying to hear and write things down. And I might try to get a media pass. They said that if you have a YouTube channel, you could get a media pass. So that way I can be there too with a laptop if the judge allows it. So what I found out is that the judge gets to determine what kind of what's allowed in the courtroom in terms of a laptop, a cell phone, cameras. So it's up to each individual judge. So in this case, I thought it was going to be Judge Brenda Penny, who we are familiar with in the Free Britney, Justice for Britney movement. We know Penny would recognize me. I sit in on all of her hearings for Britney since she had been freed. So I was like, I'm going to put fresh dye in my hair and wear my pink outfit so that Brenda knows that Free Britney and Justice for Britney has eyes in that courtroom. But when I got there, found out it was actually a different judge. And, I can't say I was surprised considering Brenda Penny passes things off to other judges all of the time in Britney's case. She passed off the discovery decisions to Judge Roy Paul in Britney's case. She now passed off, I guess, the entire case to Judge Luna in Britney's case. So to see that I don't know. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? I'm not sure if that's exactly what happened, but I guess what I'm saying is there seems to be a pattern there, and I, maybe biasly think that she's scared of us, that she didn't want the heat. So she was a different judge. So I know this judge. And I got a good vibe from this judge as she did lean towards Elijah Blue and lean towards things that we've always wanted for conservatees or potential conservatees in this case. And that is their own representative, their own lawyers that they get to choose, that they get to hire. So that was the first thing that they discussed when we walked into that hearing. There was other people in that hearing that were going first, other cases. So when the judge called up Elijah, the first thing that they discussed was basically John Guy. So John Guy was the court-appointed lawyer for Elijah Blue, and Elijah showed up with two other lawyers. And I wrote it down as Cage and Miles, the lawyers that he showed up with. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Again, I just jotted this down when I was in the courtroom, so I will do more of a deep dive and read the documents and get more caught up. So just keep that in mind. But basically, John Guy is the court-appointed lawyer. And basically, the judge, first everyone has to introduce themselves. And the judge, was asking, well, who's your lawyer? And John Guy, she asked John Guy, and John Guy basically said that he had a conflict of interest to be Elijah's lawyer. And that these other two lawyers that were with Cage and Miles, one of them was Rummer was his name, I think. And then I forget the other guy's name. Maybe I wrote it down. But essentially, they're on the same team. They're on the same law firm. And that is who it seemed like that was who Elijah Blue showed up with. That's who he wanted to be his lawyers. Basically what happened was Cher's lawyers were saying he's incapable of hiring his own lawyer. He lacks the capacity to hire his own lawyer. Meanwhile, he shows up with his own lawyers. So what do you mean? He is there. He brought these lawyers up to speed. How is that not him hiring his own lawyers? Seems like he's capable to me. So basically, the judge also agreed with this. So this is why I felt like this was such a win, especially as the Britney people, we've all been kind of traumatized from the fact that Britney tried to hire her own lawyer and wasn't able to. So, in this case, basically they discharged John Guy. So they said, actually, I'm going to allow him to choose his own lawyers. So basically what happened after that was, it just says that they argued, they were we're not certain that Allman has the capacity. And the judge was like, I'm not really sure you have standing. And she discharged John Guy. And then she said, John Guy, like, you can leave unless you have any requests. And he said he would submit requests. I don't know what that means. I don't know what kind of request. Maybe a request to be discharged. Like, I'm not sure. But that was that. He was discharged. Goodbye, John Guy. So then, ex parte review objection Allman. So these are just my notes. Basically, she, again, just right off the bat, like, sides with Mr. Allman. She says, okay, here's what went down. BJ talks about this on her channel. If you guys came over from BJ channel, I absolutely love her. She's amazing. Follow her. If you're not, I'm sure you guys are already here, subscribers. But basically, there was something filed. There was confidential information that was supposed to be available for Elijah, and Elijah tried to get access to that information. And when he did, it was denied. Like, it basically, I don't know if it was denied or if it was just like, he did not get the access. Like, they ignored him, essentially. I'm just reading some comments. Hi. Yeah, so they ignored him. Let's see. So the judge is saying that he had less than 24 hours, and that is not enough time to review and access those documents. So basically, they continued the temporary conservatorship petition in March, it says here in my notes. And then, let's see. And then I always like when this happens, like, the judge gets kind of spicy and she's like, you can stay seated, and she still stands there. These are just my notes, so they're kind of messy. Bear with me. But basically, it was like the Loeb and Loeb lawyers. It was like one of Cher's lawyers. And sometimes the judges like say things like that, and it makes me just kind of get a vibe of like, who has a bad taste in their mouth. And I guess it seemed like she was siding with Elijah at this point. But she said, okay, so then the Loeb and Loeb lawyers are like arguing, and they're like, no, we don't want the temporary conservatorship petition to get continued later. Like, we wanted that today because he is getting a distribution from the trust. And they said it was a life or death matter for him, that if he got this money or whatever. So I thought that was really odd. Especially because I do not condone conservatorships of the person or of the estate. Like, I'm actually an abolitionist, so I don't throw out the whole system with conservatorships. But they're arguing life or death matter over money, over the conservatorship of the estate. You know, it's not a person conservatorship where they can control like their medical. They're arguing that he has addictions, you know. And so essentially, like, they're presenting this like it's a life or death matter if he gets the trust distribution, which is distribution from his late father. His father has passed away and left him money in a trust. And that is what he is gaining access to, that they did not want him to gain access to. So basically, they start arguing that let's grant a temporary one, even if it's shorter than March. It's okay if there's some time after the temporary conservatorship of the estate ends, you know, but let's just do a temporary one. They don't want him to have that money, and they said that they wanted to safeguard him from the money. So they're arguing that it's necessary for his protection. And the judge says, I am not persuaded. She said this multiple times. I am not persuaded. She said, Allman reached out to you yesterday wanting information that you were supposed to provide, and you did not provide. So I am not persuaded, because it's like, if y'all are so rushed, then how come you didn't rush to get Elijah the information that he requested and deserved to see yesterday. So the judge wasn't having it. And she goes, you had the opportunity for 24 hours notice for him to have that. And maybe, I'm not saying this is what the case is, but it's almost like, if you just cooperated and showed that you're cooperative, maybe she would have listened to them more, to Loeb and Loeb more. But no. They didn't provide the information, and they didn't give him even 24 hours notice. And I'm not persuaded. So she basically appoints, she said, reached out to the court-appointed counsel, John Guy. Not persuaded. Okay. So then Loeb and Loeb is trying to say, oh, well, we reached out to the court-appointed lawyer, and then she just says, I'm not persuaded. So then they settle on January 29th for the next hearing. There were concerns with the timeline. I think it was Loeb and Loeb's concerns. And they wanted can we move the hearing to March? And the judge said no. It's January 29th and it's at 10:30. And then they're like, oh yeah, they still are they're still pulling out stops to try to get the trust to wait. But no, it's January 29th, 10:30 a.m. And then the judge said, basically, after Elijah and his lawyers look at those confidential filings that were kept from them, now they'll have access and they can look at it. And once they do, the judge asks them to file a position on the matter a week prior so she could read it ahead of time, which was great because I'm used to Luna not reading all of the documents before court. And this judge was like, actually, I want to read the documents ahead of time, so get it to me a week prior. So they will have to file and serve those documents, that position, by January 22nd. So, yes. Sorry, I'm just going to catch up. I'm so new to live, so bear with me. But yeah, so that is how it ended. This I'm talking about the Elijah Blue Allman conservatorship case. Cher has attempted to put her son into a conservatorship of the estate, so his financial conservatorship. So I went to that hearing prior to Britney's hearing, and I'm just giving you guys the recap of my notes from that hearing. So let's see. I can read some of your guys' comments. If there was money left to him, he should be able to do with it what he wants. Did they say how much it was for? They did not mention the amount in the hearing, but I believe there is mention in the court documents. I will pull these up and research it and then do another live. I know BJ has done that too, so I did link I linked her in the description. I bet you guys are all on her from her channel. So okay, Loeb and Loeb is one of the law firms James Spears used to keep Britney in her conservatorship. Yup. That's what I was thinking. Loeb and Loeb was present in the Britney Spears conservatorship as well. Now, I will say these firms are huge. You know what I mean? So there could be thousands, and they could even be in different cities and stuff like that. But yes, it is Loeb and Loeb. And also, I'll tell you guys that Matt Rosengard he spoke to Elijah. Elijah called Matt to represent him, but there was a scheduling issue with Matt. But he spoke very highly of him because he did mention it after court. We asked Matt Rosengard after court about Elijah Blue and told him what had happened in the hearing. Hi, Alexa. Hi, love you. You guys, Alexa Nicholas is here. I love her. You guys should follow her if you don't already. I'm sure you guys do. Her work with e-predators is incredible. I'm honored to be an ally for e-predators. I love you guys. Yes. So I thought that was interesting that Elijah wanted to hire Matt Rosengard as well. And basically, I will say Elijah looked good. Like, for someone that they're saying is like an addict who like can't take care of it, whatever they're trying to say. I know what they said about Britney, similar thing. Like, he looked good. Like, he was well put together. He was there with his wife. His sister was there too. He had a team of lawyers. He looked good. He looked scared, like sad or concerned. You know what I mean? I did go up to him after court to see if there was any comment and let him know that like I am a part of the Free Britney, Justice for Britney movement, and that we work to end conservatorship abuse, and if he had any comment. And it did look like he wanted to say something to me, but he was instructed by his lawyers to leave no comment, and I respect that, of course, whatever is best for him. And so then I just said, like, of course, thank you. We support you in your freedom. Let them know, And so, I just want them to know that we are there, that we have seen this game before. And I believe Britney made such a big difference. Like, I believe her speaking out and really setting the record straight of things that happened in the courtroom helped Elijah get this lawyer. I mean, BJ, I believe she said she hasn't really seen that before. They really push for the court-appointed lawyer, and I saw them push right there in the courthouse. But it was great that he was able to hire his own lawyer, because that's such a win, especially from, the Britney community, who knows that, Britney tried to hire her own lawyer in a multitude of ways, including dressing someone up like a plumber, like the lengths that these victims, these survivors have to go through in order to have their voice respected is it's absurd, and it's not right. And that's why I go to the courtroom. That's why you guys are here. So I appreciate all of you because this is a community. Like, we have power in numbers. We have power in each other. We have power in our community. So I'm really grateful to be a part of it and the work that all of you guys are doing. Let's see. He was a healthy weight. As an ex-addict, I even looked into his eyes to see if there were pinpoints that I would recognize, as his eyes seemed clear. He was nervous, though. I would be too. I'm just reading other comments. Yeah, he didn't seem like erratic, or like he looked like his father. So I was impressed by that. And you know what was so bizarre was that afterwards, there was news reports saying that he was missing, and they were said, oh, this is from 2 hours ago. The 2 hours ago was when the hearing was starting. He wasn't missing. He was in the hallway at Stanley Moss Courthouse. I saw him there. Like, it's so bizarre that the media reports on things that are obviously factually incorrect. Like, how could they? But we saw it so much with Britney's case. So I'm not surprised, but that's still, every time it just like, it does have that shock factor of their lies. Wow. Let's see. I know. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments. I don't trust her. She didn't want her son to have his own legal attorney. And one thing that I have heard, and that we've seen with Britney's case as well, and Matt Rosengart even did comment on this, is that oftentimes there are people who, go into these family members' ears. Like, and I believe this. I believe that Cher has somebody in her ear that's telling her this strategy that we've seen time and time again with conservatorships. So, I need to just dive into this a lot more, and I will. But, just like we saw Lou Taylor approach the family member, it doesn't mean what the family members are doing is right. Absolutely not. They are doing wrong with that. We should allow people their rights to their own legal defense, the rights to their own finances, and their own medical choices. So obviously, I know we all feel that way as we are activists together in this space. So yeah, so let's see. Let's read more of your comments. Imagine what the news would report on if we didn't have independent press watching these trials. No, I know. It's really scary. We saw it with Britney's case. And in Britney's case, they have this thing called Media Matters, which is one of James Spears' former lawyers went on a press tour to try to convince the general public that Britney Spears needed this conservatorship and that daddy loves her. And it is now that fee, the money that it cost that lawyer to go on this press tour, is something that they're pushing for Britney Spears to pay for to this day. Trying not to cuss because I'm like, but to this day. And I will say, Britney's hearing yesterday, it did upset me. It upset me because it is a money grab. These lawyers need to leave Britney alone. Like at the classic, leave Britney alone. Like it is a money grab. Britney has her freedom. It seems like Britney wants to move on, and these lawyers drag it out. They dragged it out in court for 3 hours yesterday in Britney's hearing. And that's a long time for us. We haven't had a long hearing like that in, I think, over a year. And I was exhausted. I was there early in the day, woke up early and whatnot, and I was frustrated. I look at these people's faces during the hearings, and it's nauseating, especially knowing what they've done. So, and they don't all show up in person. In Britney's case, a lot of the former counsel is on Court Connect. Luna's court doesn't even allow the press to have their laptops in there. Luna's court doesn't even allow the press to have their phones. They have to be turned off. So Britney has always been more secretive, And I will say the press isn't supposed to be like texting and whatnot, but I see them on their messenger. Like, how you can text on your computer? I saw it in there. Like, it's very frustrating. They are able to send messages in the courtroom, and yet they're still reporting fake news. Like, it's really sad. Vivian Thoreen's press tour was one of the worst things I've ever seen. $500,000 for her disgraced conservator to have a press tour is horrible. I know. And the way they are still trying to get Britney to pay for that. Now, they are saying Britney's conservatorship, like the conservatorship needs to pay them. There is no conservatorship. There's no conservatorship. So who's paying you? Go away. Leave Britney alone. Do you think John Guy, who was appointed for 5 days and didn't even give Elijah the documents, will file for fees? Oh my gosh. I don't know. Obviously, it's weird that there's court-appointed lawyers and that the estate still has to pay for that. But that is a good question. And I will ask around. BJ might know about that. Let's see. I'm from the UK and we find it so strange that conservatorship in this way. Yeah, conservatorships are so weird and they are handled by the probate court, which used to handle legalized slavery. So this is fucked. I can't try not to curse, but it's an old, I often feel when I'm fighting up against this, I feel like I'm fighting this ancient energy that was just from hundreds of years that has been still existing today, and it's in our courthouse. I got into this because I really care about artists. I care about freedom of expression, and I always felt the music industry was obviously exploiting artists, but more than that, it was there's just so many examples of ways that that these business people are taking advantage. And art for me creates culture, and to have an authentic culture, we want to have authentic art and authentic artists. And when these artists have so much control over them, it takes away from that authenticity. And that's how I really joined this movement. And where I ended up was the courthouse. Everything comes down to the laws and the legislation and these lawyers and these decisions that are being made behind these closed doors in our courthouse. And that's when I was wow, we need to educate ourselves on the court system, because if we want freedom in any industry, it's all going to trickle down to the courthouse and what's happening in those rooms. And sometimes it's not even open to the public. A lot of the hearings are private. I had heard that before Elijah's hearing that they had a private hearing. So, I don't know what happens in those, and, we have to trust the procedures and the systems, but we don't, because we've seen time and time again the systems being exploited and corrupt. So, that's why, I'm so, I admire BJ so much as well, because, she's a law tuber. She teaches us things about the law, and it's such important information that I feel like is being gate kept from us by like the education industry. Like, why should I have to pay to take classes in order to learn like my own rights? Like, it's very bizarre to me. So I show up and we educate ourselves together. Let's see. I'm just going to read some more of your comments. Conservatorship laws in Norway, 20,000 cases. It is unheard of to have it like this. Wow. Yeah, we have over 1 million cases of conservatorships in America. So it is a lot, and it has gone unseen. And it wasn't until Britney Spears stepped forward and spoke her truth and got the word out there that these things happen and that our suspicions were correct. And so that's why I'm just like so proud of her. Like, whenever I feel like weak or something, I think about like Britney, and I think about Alexa, and I think about BJ, and I think about, these women that I look up to that have such strong sense of self and determination and endurance, and it makes me feel strong. And I aspire to get stronger. And we are stronger when we're together. And that's why I'm excited to like be in this YouTube too and grow together our community and to educate ourselves, because that is what we need to do. We need to educate ourselves and know our rights and stand up for the rights of others as well, because we are all connected. Like, their rights are our rights. If they're going to do it to her, they'll do it to us, right? So, yes, knowledge is power, muscles. Yes, let's exercise. I love you guys. Yes, Emily D. Baker is amazing at covering this stuff. Check her out. I have seen her videos before. She's amazing. I need to watch her way more because I would love to learn from her. She is incredible. Watching LawTube makes me want to be a lawyer too. LOL. Gotta get over my fear of the court first, though. Yeah, I know. It is intimidating in those courtrooms too. But yeah, LawTube makes me, honestly, this experience makes me want to learn law. Obviously, that's what we're talking about here, is learning our rights and learning the legal system. I think about it. I might attempt to get a grant or something. That, like, law school is so expensive. It's not fair how it's gate kept from us behind a paywall, our own rights. Okay, so let's get into Britney's case. Law nerd, from law nerd to Britney nerd. Okay. So Britney's case started at 1:30. All right. People showed up like right at 1:30, like the lawyers and stuff. Like, we were already seated in the courtroom, and I was like worried. I thought maybe nothing was going to happen this hearing because the lawyers were maybe going to be remote. But it turns out James Spears' lawyer, his current lawyer, showed up. The former lawyers for James Spears were joined through Court Connect. And then Matt Rosengard showed up, Britney Spears' lawyer, and he had a colleague with him. I've never seen this colleague before, but I'm sure he works on this case consistently, and he was just new to appearing in the courtroom. So Luna is a bit of a diva. She showed up at 1:47. Brenda Penny, previously the judge for Britney's case, she was always on time. She was quiet. Luna is not quiet, and she shows up a little bit late, makes us wait for her. So it was, not long, but sitting in that courtroom for 17 minutes feels like a while, especially when you have sloppy Alex Weingarten in front of you. So basically, There were matters that they were going to go over. The first thing that they really did was confirm the trial dates. So Britney Spears' case is set to go to trial. It's set to go to trial in May and another trial in June. So I'm told that the trial in May is going to cover the 12th accounting. I also heard it would cover some other things like Britney Spears being held against her will. And what Matt has said in court as well is that more evidence is going to come out during these trials. So that is the May trial. And then the June trial is essentially just about the lawyer's fees. So they separated these issues, the 12th accounting and the lawyer's fees, to go off into two different trials. Now, this is not a criminal trial. This is not a jury trial. This is a trial about money. This is a trial about wanting more money from Britney Spears. The audacity of these people. And I get really overwhelmed. Like, I was overwhelmed yesterday to even talk about this because it's absurd. It's a money grab and it's so obvious. And there is proof of their criminal activity. There was a whistleblower, I'm sure you guys know, the whistleblower Alex Vlasov had evidence and came forward of them committing abuse, conservatorship abuse towards Britney Spears. Now, this investigation that Britney Spears has is run by her law firm, as well as ally to Britney Spears, Shireen Abadi, who was former FBI. And by the way, Britney's lawyer was also a former federal prosecutor. So we have federal energy here, and that's what I want, because selfishly and not so selfishly, because this is happening in the courtroom with American tax dollars, and if it happens to her, it's happening to all of us. So it's a public matter, and we want accountability, right? So essentially, they just going back to the hearing here, they talk about the trials. And this is where I get annoyed, because Alex Weingarten spent the first half of this hearing, because it was divided into two parts because we had a break since it was so long. And he spent the first half trying to get the Abadi Declaration struck from the record. Now, the Abadi Declaration is this document that Shireen Abadi made. Shireen Abadi is the former FBI. She is the investigator on Britney's case. She is looking into the wrongdoings of James Spears. She's looking into the wrongdoings of TriStar Sports and Management, and into the wrongdoings of Black Box, so the security company. And she found them. Alex Vlasov, the whistleblower, gave them evidence, and they wrote this declaration that is a step-by-step guide to the abuse that Britney Spears endured in the conservatorship. That there is evidence in this declaration. They are saying that they have evidence of this, and that this is criminal activity. This is something that law enforcement can look at, and then they can make action, right? So it bothers me, but Alex Weingarten spent the first half of this hearing trying to get the Abadi Declaration struck from the record, which to me makes me want to read it to all of you. Because why doesn't he want it on the record? He has been trying to get access to this investigation. He wants to know what Britney knows. He wants to know what Britney has against them, what evidence she has against them. And they have been pushing for this discovery, right? It's discovery when their lawyers, which is James Spears' lawyers and former lawyers, because they are all involved and all guilty in the surveillance, that was what Britney Spears endured. take a breath because it bugs me. So basically, they wanted access to this. They wanted access to her investigation. Now, Brenda Penny previously couldn't make a decision. She didn't want to make a decision. She passed it on to a discovery referee. Okay, she had Matt pick 3 and Alex Weingarten picked 3. So Britney picked 3 and James Spears picked 3, and she sided with one of Alex Weingarten's picks, one of James Spears' picks. However, that discovery referee, Judge Roy Paul, ruled in favor of Britney Spears. He ruled that 90% of the investigation is privileged, meaning they will not gain access to it. They do not have access to that discovery. Now, that ruling then went to Judge Luna. So Judge Luna then had to approve Judge Roy Paul's order for, keeping those documents away from James Spears. Well, it was approved. Luna approved the order, meaning they are not getting that discovery. They are not getting access to Britney's investigation, and they were pissed. And they tried. But Matt defended her well. He kept reiterating the order, the 727 order that protects Britney, and, the Judge Roy Paul ruling. So that was a win for us, despite what Alex Weingarten and those other lawyers were putting us through in that courtroom, dragging it out. And I believe they were doing it on purpose because we had more media in that courtroom. We haven't had a lot of media in the courtroom for a little while, but because of Elijah Blue's case earlier that day, a lot of the media and press from that case, and advocates too, they stayed and they sat in on Britney's hearing. So I feel like they were putting on a show. And Matt exclaimed in court that this should not be a circus. This hearing should not be a circus. We're done here, essentially. Britney has her freedom back. She's trying to move on, and they are after this money grab. Now, the rest of us, we want accountability. We want criminal charges. We don't want to see this happen again, right? Now, I have had my heart set on this trial, but I'm realizing this is not a criminal trial. We need law enforcement to come in and just read the Abadi Declaration and make arrests, do something, right? So I did set it up so we could read the Abadi Declaration, but I do want to cover other things that happened in the courtroom for Britney's case. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of skim through some of the comments. Yes, Britney's conservatorship is null and void. It is donezo. These people need to get lost. They are claiming that the conservatorship owes them money. There is no conservatorship. Goodbye. I have BJ's mug here from her merch. Bye. Bye, Team Con. Take a little sip. Aw, thank you. I'm seeing some love in the comments. I love you guys. I love you. Let's see. I'm just trying to read some things here. Okay. Yes. Okay. So essentially, Matt Rosengart spent the first half of this hearing blocking the efforts for Team Con to get discovery, right? Luna agrees with Matt. She agrees with Britney. She says, the 90% is privilege. I agree with Judge Roy Paul. And there was no order to get the Abadi Declaration struck, right? So it's like they just keep saying things over and over. A motion will get denied, and then they will file another motion saying the same thing. They're annoying. And I was getting annoyed, and Matt was not annoyed. He's we're winning. You know what I mean? And I'm okay, I get that, but they're so aggravating to me. So I get worked up, and that's why I had to pause because I think they're getting desperate because they're losing, Britney is free and she's moving on, and she kind of said F you to the entire entertainment industry, let alone these judges and TriStar and Black Box. So speaking of TriStar, there is news from TriStar. So basically, there's depositions. They've been subpoenaed. They have to answer questions. They have to answer Britney's questions. And they have been dodging it. They have been avoiding her phone calls. They have been, oh, yeah, we'll meet. Oh, I can't. I'm sick. For months. When we went into Luna's court, because Brenda drags things out. So I really think they were able to dodge things because Brenda was slow. She's not making decisions. She's passing off her decisions. Now, Luna is a firecracker, and that scares me, but at the same time, she's making decisions, right? And when we went into her court, she assured Britney and Matt that these depositions were going to happen. And a date was set. And it's the end of the month. So Lou Taylor, Robin Greenhill, and a third principal representing TriStar Sports and Entertainment will have to sit for depositions for 2 days. And guess what day it is, too? I just want to get it. Yeah, January 29th and the 30th. But yes, the 29th, the same day as Elijah's next hearing, Lou Taylor and Robin Greenhill and a third principal will be sitting for deposition. Like mic drop. Like, should I just mic drop? Because we've been waiting. We've been waiting for these depositions. These depositions have to happen. Luna said that they would have to happen. They were ordered. They were court ordered. So if they don't happen, we could defer to BJ, but I'm pretty sure arrests happen when there is a court order and you deny it. So so happy about this. January 29th and the 30th, they are going to have to sit for depositions, and they are going to have to answer to Britney, to her lawyer. And Britney does not have to answer to them, no matter how hard they try. She does not have to answer to them. It was ruled in the Court of Appeals that Britney Spears does not have to answer to them. So even if, and that it's not going to happen, but even if there was an order by a judge for something like that, Matt can appeal it, and it would go to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals would say, we already ruled on this. We said, leave Britney alone. So she gets to move on from this. And, those are really the only things that actually were set yesterday in court. Everything else was Team Con just dragging things out. And they are dragging it out. And it has been really upsetting. But I'm really grateful for the way that Matt defends her. I really am convinced that if we were allowed cameras in the courtroom, if people saw him in action, you can ask other people who were there yesterday, because we did get other advocates who were there. He commands a room. He does defend her, and people are oh, Melanie, you trust Matt Rosengard so much, I do, because I see him defend Britney, and we've been researching this case for years, and that's all we ever wanted, was someone to defend Britney and tell these predatory lawyers to shut up. And not only that, obviously I want them to go to jail, but here's the thing. Matt works for Britney. So, if we want to get to criminal court, if Britney sues, legally, I'm pretty sure then they would get to depose her or drag her through this, re-traumatizing her, and that is Britney's decision. And Matt works for Britney. So even though obviously, we all do. Britney said it in her testimony that she wants them to go to jail. So, law enforcement has to read this Abadi declaration. And, I believe that they're already investigating this, but it's totally that's just my I have no proof of that, right? How could we know what the FBI is doing? But I will say that Shireen Abadi, who wrote this declaration, was former FBI. She was FBI. You don't think she has connections with FBI the way all these probate judges and lawyers have connections with each other, and we see it? You don't think that Britney's team has federal connections? because they do. Her investigation team is former FBI. And this former FBI wrote the Abadi Declaration, and they're scared of it. They don't want it on the record, but it's on the record. So I really hope that law enforcement steps in. I have dreams of the FBI raiding TriStar. I don't want them to do this to anybody else, and I do not want any industry professional to think that they can get away with this. And we are just starting out our own movement, to keep eyes on the court. One thing that we always really wanted was a court watchers program. When I was at the termination rally for Britney, when she made history and got out of her conservatorship, they said that she never would. They said no one ever does, but she did because she spoke up. And I saw one of my friends, Joao, he's amazing, part of Free Britney LA. Free Britney LA set up the termination hearing. They had so many different speakers. And one of the things that was brought up was a court watchers program because, there was legislation that was passed. But these people, they break the rules. Of course we want better legislation. Of course we want better laws, but we need the laws to be enforced. And, how do we do that? One of the suggestions was a court watchers program. I'm not in a court watchers program, we do it just by showing up. We do it just by volunteering, and you guys are doing it right now by, making sure, if there was a governmental, court watchers program, then, the judges would be scared of us, of those court watchers because they have power, right? But we have power through our community. We have power through each other, through our friendships, through our connections, through the way we share information. So you guys are so important. And I'm so grateful that our hearts and visions for the future are aligned. So that way, when we do show up and watch the court, they're scared. Or, they even a healthy fear. Even if they're a good person, they have a healthy fear. I don't want to fuck up. So try not to curse. Because we need that. We need consequences. These judges have judge immunity. I don't get that. So, and that's something that once things kind of wrap up with Britney's case as well, there will be judicial reviews. For the lawyers too, they have reviews. Lawyers got disbarred. We can protest outside the Department of Justice. I want Britney to have her fresh start to be able to move on. You know what I mean? But we don't have to move on in terms of demanding accountability. Britney can do whatever she wants because she's earned her freedom. She always did. You don't need to earn freedom. We're born with freedom. But she had to fight for hers. And she did. And she won. I'm so proud of her for that. But for us, we get to keep showing up. So I'm grateful for the community. Oh, so someone said once you do RICO, you are not immune. So yeah, a lot of people want RICO charges, So RICO charges are institutional racketeering, right? So what happened with Britney's case, the court systems, are they trafficking her, with the management team and black box security, right? So essentially it's a whole system of corruption, and that's the kind of charges we want. We need law enforcement to come in and press these charges. So I don't know enough about the system, to know how that works, they're doing an investigation and then in my mind there's an FBI raid and then they have bail and then there's going to be a court date that hopefully Britney wouldn't have to be involved with, you know what I mean? I'm not sure how that works. I don't want Britney have to be wrapped up and relive this. I want her to do whatever she wants, and not have to be exposed to these lawyers and these predatory managers and this system that did her wrong. She deserves so much better and a fresh start, you know? So I'm not exactly sure how we are going to get our justice. For Britney, you know, in some ways I feel like she had like her freedom is her justice. The support that she's had is her justice. Yeah, she said she wanted those people to not walk away so freely, right? She said she wanted them to go to jail. I do too. I want that too. I just don't want that to compromise what Britney has to go through, right? I want her to have that fresh state and to move on. Like, I want her to have whatever she wants, right? So, you know, I support her no matter what her choice is. So Britney deserves validation, and this whole thing was about stealing her money and not about helping her. Absolutely. Absolutely. Aw, Alexa, I love you too. I wonder if Britney wants RICO. Me too. RICO charges and federal charges are impossible to fight. Almost 100% conviction rate. Ooh, that comment. I wish I was like BJ where I could like pin the comments. I would pin that one. I want that and get them and convict them. They should not be able to do this. Look at the case number I gave you. It's from court district. Okay, I will look into this. I saved like the chat so I can like review them later and stuff in case I missed anything. Oh my God, you're welcome. I'm so grateful to be able to share this information. Like, sorry it took me so long to even like get live. Like, I thank you Alexa and Miko because they helped me with so much of the technical stuff, just like learning OBS and like also encouraging me to like go live instead of doing like kind of the produced videos because those ones are like harder. So I love you guys. I love you. Okay, so only 120. Oh, you guys are nice. You're saying hit the like button. Hit the like button. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Aw, I know. I'm getting teared up too. Do you guys want to go through the Abadi declaration? Like, it's a little like lengthy. It's like 27 pages. And Alex Weingarten didn't want it on the record. So that makes me want to share it publicly. So you guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Okay, I'm just going to pull it up. Let's see. Look at this. Is cool. Ready? This is what Miko taught me from Predators. Okay, wait. Where is it? Okay, now I need to, okay. Let's see if it's like this. Okay, ready? Ta-da! Now I feel like a real YouTuber. Is this cool? Okay, so this is the Abadi declaration. This is what they don't want on the record. I wonder why. I made some TikToks about this to kind of break down the Abadi declaration in just like quicker doses. You know what I mean? Like I just like went through it and grabbed like the main points and like I've made TikToks about this for a while because it's been out for a while. But they still are trying to get it struck. So that's interesting. Okay, so again, this is Shireen Abadi, former FBI. So cool. Okay, so here she's saying that she's an associate director in the forensics, investigations, and intelligence. So let's see, Modus. Okay, yeah. How do I do that? I'm such a new, add as moderator. I did it. Know if my other friends are in here want to be a moderator. Thank you. Yeah, true. We can mod. Yeah, thank you. I just didn't even do it because I feel like I'm I don't know if there's haters in here, but add as moderator. I guess Team Con didn't find my live yet. I will say, so my only video on here besides now this one is of Alex Weingarten, who is James Spears' lawyer. And I will say, since I posted that, he stopped scaring me in court because we were having these altercations where he would yell at me and I was actually arguing with like James Spears' lawyer. Like, it's so bizarre showing up to these things. Like, you guys, we should all be court watching. Like, yeah, because I was thinking, okay, if I really am stressing him out, maybe it's making a difference, like in the case. But it was stressing me out too. And when I made that video talking about, you know, his harassment charges, or not charges, but there was a lawsuit against him for harassment. There's another one against him for sexual abuse, and I'm gonna be talking about that as well. Not today, but another time. He is so gross. Yes, he is. He is. He is. He's so scary, you guys. Yes, and he did not want us to read this document. So let's read it. So basically, let me know if you guys can like read it. Hopefully you can, because I don't know. Okay, so anyway, let's see. So she kind of starts out saying who she is, right? She specializes in conducting complex financial investigations, forensic audits, due diligence, and business intelligence services. Okay. Now, one thing to note is that, you know, Matt Rosengart did say there's additional evidence that was going to be coming out in the trial. So what we have here is just what's already been out. So, you know, she has still continued to lead investigations. And this document came out a year ago. It came out, 2 years ago. This document came out 2 years ago. So can you imagine what they have discovered since then? You know, so this, they still don't even want us to read this, and it's already old. I wonder what else will come out. Hopefully they just pass it right on to the FBI, which Miss Abadi is former FBI. Okay, so she just says like her responsibilities. She manages investigative teams, case strategy, conducting critical and sensitive witness interviews. So we know that, the witnesses. That's something that I wanted to tell you guys about. Okay. I'm sorry. I need to have like an agenda for these things. Okay, wait. There was information about witnesses that came out in court yesterday. Wait. I have to pull my notes for this because I thought that was interesting. They were talking about trial, and they were talking about the witnesses at the trial. So essentially, okay, here we go. Okay. Matt Rosengart said in court yesterday that there was going to be 4 to 5 witnesses. Britney Spears will be showing up with 4 to 5, not showing up, but there will be 4 to 5 witnesses in the trial for Britney. Basically, then Luna asked how many witnesses, the witnesses on Alex Weingarten's side. And he said, she asked him, is some kind of like financial CPA or financial expert going to testify like for Weingarten for James Spears? And he said no. And then she was like, well, then how are you going to prove it? Like, how are you going to prove like just James Spears or like a professional? And he's like, there'll be a professional. So it kind of just seemed like he don't have anyone, but I don't know. But I guess like that's all. I thought it said a number of witnesses that he was going to have 2, but maybe he just said that he's going to have someone professional. Vague. Okay. I did remember that. I did want you guys to know about that. Let me see if I'm leaving anything else out. It's just kind of like the other things in this notes are like how Luna didn't really fully seem to know the case. But let's get back to Britney's witnesses. So we're talking Britney Spears was said to have 4 to 5 witnesses. So now we have Shireen Abadi saying that she is an expert at leading witness interviews. So we know that there is a lot more evidence that's going to come out from these interviews. Oh, experts are paid anyway. They got nothing. I love that, Alexa. Experts are paid anyway. Yeah, literally. And this kind of seemed like it kind of just seemed like they didn't even know what to say. Like, they don't have a CPA or financial expert. Okay. I guess y'all have nothing, because Britney already had a financial expert basically step in to be a temporary conservatorship before James Spears was suspended. And they did this on purpose because when you're a conservator, you have access to documents that if the conservatorship just ended, those documents just get lost. Like nobody has access to that, because when you're granted as a conservator, you become the person, essentially. That's why when James Spears said, "I am Britney Spears," right? Like, he was able to sign for her. He can make decisions for her. He has special privileges to documents that nobody else had because he was a conservator. And they did have a lead financial forensics accountant be a temporary conservator before the conservatorship was terminated, to explore all of the confidential information that only would be privileged to that person, basically to give to Shireen Abadi and lead their investigation team to prove financial abuse, right? And to get Britney freed, which she did. So let's see. I want to get back to this. Okay. So she's just listing out kind of like her experience here. And, she talks about sophisticated forensics, $100 million estate. Like, she has, like fraud and money laundering schemes. Like, basically she has experience. Basically, she's the perfect person to be investigating against this financial fraud that seems so obvious to us. So, she's talking now about, her honors and awards that she's won. Essentially, she's an extremely accredited FBI investigator, right? So here's John Zabel. John Zabel is the forensics accountant that was the temporary conservator of Britney Spears when James Spears was suspended, and right before Britney's conservatorship was terminated, they put him in place to get public records. So this is what I was just saying before, that those were then passed on to her, so she could and they analyzed them together. Okay. So sorry. Oh, I was like, that's right. Okay. So basically, okay, executive summary. At the time that Mr. Spears took on fiduciary responsibility for the welfare of his daughter, Britney Jean Spears, and her estate, he already had a history of reported violent outbursts, alcohol abuse, and financial mismanagement, which included his own bankruptcy. Why? They would put this person in charge of another person? Racketeering, maybe? As set forth herein, this pattern of misconduct continued throughout the conservatorship to the detriment of Miss Spears and the estate. Mr. Spears used his role as conservator to enrich himself and those close to him, or useful to him, at the expense of his daughter and the estate. As he often worked to rid Miss Spears' inner circle of individuals willing to support or speak on her behalf, he awarded multi-million-dollar contracts to his friends and those to whom he was indebted, offering them a sizable percentage of his daughter's earnings. He had disclosed conflicts of interest and engaged in self-dealing with his daughter's assets. He used estate assets to pay personal expenses for himself and his associates, including legal fees incurred after an altercation with Miss Spears' children, leading to a restraining order against him. And he even went so far as to surreptitiously, I'm saying that right, record and capture his daughter's most private communications, including attorney-client communications with her prior court-appointed attorney and private conversations in her bedroom. He did all of this on the heel of serious financial troubles manifesting in bankruptcy, while paying himself millions of dollars from his daughter's estate. So wonder why they want to strike this from the record. The conservator committed domestic violence against a child, literally. And this is who they're putting in charge of another person? What? This is why these judges need to be disbarred, in my opinion. Are you serious? This is who they think is going to help Britney Spears. This is why, I don't trust the media, because at the time that they were putting her into this, they were paying all of this PR to make it seem like he's like the hero here. So, okay. Mr. Spears' history of behavioral and financial issues. Mr. Spears had a history of violence and alcoholism. Now, here we have in Elijah's case, he has addictions. He has substance addictions. And yet, in Britney's case, they're giving a man with substance addictions rights over another human being. How does that make any sense? Let's go back to the state bar. Yes, Alexa. Yes, let's protest the state bar. Absolutely. According to reports that I have deemed credible, Mr. Spears has a history of violent behavior. When his ex-wife, Lynn Spears, originally filed for divorce in 1980, she requested a restraining order against Mr. Spears, stating that she feared he would become angry when served with the divorce papers, and he would harass or physically harm her, especially if he had been drinking. In Lynn Spears' memoir, she wrote that Mr. Spears started abusing alcohol heavily in 1977. He would disappear on long week benders and become verbally abusive when he was drinking. Mr. Spears' own brother, Willie Spears, recounted several instances of Mr. Spears' violence and alcoholism, including one occurring during Britney Spears' childhood. According to Willie Spears, one time Jamie was drunk and tried to drive off with Britney in the car. She was no more than 5 years old. I tried to stop him, so I reached in the truck to grab the keys from the ignition, and he punched me. Mrs. Spears' former business partner and celebrity chef Bobby Oakes also relayed an event from 2002 when Mr. Spears, drunk or high, became unhinged, screaming and hollering. Mr. Oakes reported that Mr. Spears was in my face and I was expecting any minute he was going to get physical. His daughter, Jamie Lynn Spears, also recounted Mr. Spears' decades-long alcoholism. Her upcoming memoir recounts that he spent most of my life in that cycle of ruinous behavior. His bouts of drinking caused me periods of torment and sorrow. It created a lot of anxiety. The hardest part was, could I trust you? Are you drinking? Mr. Spears eventually went to rehab for his alcohol addiction, but his drinking and abusive behavior continued during his tenure as conservator. According to emails, media reports, and statements by attorneys representing the Federline family, a police report and domestic violence restraining order were filed against Mr. Spears after a violent encounter in August 2019 in which Mr. Spears physically shook his 13-year-old grandson in the presence of his other younger grandson. The restraining order was also reported to law enforcement authorities. What is law enforcement doing? Why wouldn't the conservatorship just be terminated right there? This person, why would they have control over another person's life, medical, legal, financial? It is so absurd how these courts, these judges will just sign a piece of paper and just give away someone's rights because somebody went to law school and somebody signed a piece of paper. It doesn't make any sense. Let's see. Mr. Spears had a history of mismanaging his personal finances before he took over management of Miss Spears' estate. Mr. Spears had a long history of personal financial mismanagement, including a bankruptcy, mortgage defaults, state and federal tax liens, and failed business ventures. From 1991 to 2000, Mr. Spears had several state and federal tax liens and one judgment filed against him. In October 1994, First Guarantee Bank won a judgment against Mr. Spears and his wife in the amount of $50,000 in connection with their default of their mortgage. To satisfy the judge, the sheriff seized a portion of Mr. Spears' land in Kentwood. And then in 1996, the sheriff's office also seized a portion of property containing Mr. Spears' childhood home, along with 2 trucks, several pieces of construction machinery to satisfy a second credit default to the Bank of Greensburg in the amount of $58,000, like 40. Okay. And then in 1998, Mr. Spears filed for bankruptcy. During March, so they're just painting this picture of his financial incompetence. Why would you let this man manage Britney Spears' finances? It's so scary. Tax liens while Britney was making them $5,000 on Star Search. Ooh, Britney hiatus coming in with the facts of Britney already at that point providing financial rewards for their family, already providing for her family financially. At that point. Wow, Britney is so fucking awesome. I can't believe they fumbled having the fucking coolest daughter. Like, the hell. Okay, let's see. During March 2002 interview, Mr. Spears summed up his financial woes, stating that he squandered his money on wild women and beer and was all but broke. So he's saying this about himself, too. Let's see what you guys are saying. Britney hiatus is saying bankrupt, but now he can be in charge of $60 million estate. Literally. It is so maddening. Hi, Charlie. I love you. It is so maddening. Absolutely. Okay, in a publicly filed 2008 petition requesting that he be compensated for his new role as conservator, Mr. Spears told the court that he had been working as a private chef and caterer prior to the conservatorship, but had to forego all means of employment to devote his full time and attention to caring for his daughter and her affairs. Despite these claims, it does not appear that Mr. Spears had any stable employment or income in the years immediately prior to the conservatorship. There is some indication he may have worked at a restaurant owned by Miss Spears and Oakes in 2002. But according to Oakes, I don't know if I'm saying that guy's name right, Bobby Oakes, Mr. Spears had no ownership or authority in the endeavor. There are also media reports of Mr. Spears working with Joseph Nejman at a smoothie shop in Venice Beach. Oh no. From late 2004 to early 2006. Nejman is quoted as saying that the position was an attempt at Mr. Spears getting his life back together after his post-divorce alcoholic tailspin and subsequent rehab stint. How is this somebody with this history that can just end up being the conservator of over a person on the estate? It is so scary that they will just pass on someone's freedom to somebody so unqualified. Oh my God, I'm just reading the comments. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Yes, you can like the post. Let's get this message out. This is a document that Alex Weingarten didn't want on the record, so we are just going to blast it out publicly. In 2006, Mr. Spears announced the launch of an app, Palms Home Poker Host, in partnership with the partial owners of Palms Casino in Las Vegas. This venture also appeared to have failed as its controlling entity was dissolved shortly after the conservatorship began. Okay, so part 3. From the outset of the conservatorship, Mr. Spears routinely acted in his own interests rather than his daughter's. The conservatorship originated from an ethically conflicted relationship. And here he has like the sources. Maybe we'll get into that another time. As reported by the New York Times on December 19th, 2021, prior to the start of the conservatorship in 2008, Mr. Spears had borrowed $40,000 from TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group. Conflict of interest. A then obscure business management company with only a few clients owned by Mr. Spears' friend of Lou Taylor. After initially denying it, counsel for Mr. Spears conceded the existence of this loan. Another example of them lying. They've done this over and over again. This is why I get annoyed in court, because it's like, it'll come out that they lied, and then they stick to it. They gaslight. They say the same thing over and over and over again. It's very upsetting. After initially denying it, counsel... Oh, wait, I just said that. Let's see. In view of Mr. Spears's prior bankruptcy and his financial situation at time, that is before he reaped millions of dollars as a conservator, the $40,000 loan from TriStar represented a significant amount of money for Mr. Spears, particularly in 2008. Mr. Spears' access to his daughter and her substantial earning power presented a significant business opportunity for Lou Taylor and the then fledgling TriStar company. So remember, this TriStar company was a then obscure business management company with only a few clients. They built their company now managing people like Meghan Trainor, Mary J. Blige. I heard that P. Diddy might or may not have been there is evidence on the internet saying that he was a client of TriStar. But anyway, yeah, they have gone on to manage people like Travis Scott, and it's all built off of the back of Britney Spears, the way that they've taken advantage. Exactly, Mother Oats, the then obscure, but I just kind of highlighting that part. They were nothing without Britney. They should be nothing. They need to be nothing again. So, okay. So, we're just outlining that this $40,000 loan is a conflict of interest, okay? It represented a significant amount of money to Mr. Spears in 2008. So, that just is shocking. It was against this backdrop that Mr. Spears, after consulting with Lou Taylor, petitioned for the creation of the conservatorship and therefore installed TriStar as Miss Spears' business manager. Another conflict of interest. I mean, that's why it's a conflict of interest, because they wanted her as the business manager, even though there was a previous loan. As discussed further below, based upon Kroll's analysis of data made available by TriStar via QuickBooks, Mr. Spears awarded TriStar multi-million-dollar commissions and fees from his daughter's earnings. To be clear, TriStar has nevertheless still failed and refused to answer the simple, basic questions that Kroll and Miss Spears' counsel have repeatedly asked. How much money did TriStar make from Britney Spears' estate? So this is another, they're saying here they've already been dodging these depositions. They've been dodging it. But, as we know, January 29th, January 30th, it is time for them to sit for depositions and answer these questions. There has been other documents not providing Britney Spears and her counsel the actual entities and the contracts, saying that they didn't have a physical contract. You guys are a business management company and you're not keeping track of the business entities and the business contracts? Wonder why. TriStar has instead referred Kroll and counsel to 13 years of disjointed, complex, and incomplete accountings, while also providing the above referenced information via its own unverified QuickBooks software. Further, the accountings expressly note that they are incomplete because it would be impractical to fit the business activities and transactions of Ms. Spears into the form of the traditional accounting. The excuses. Send over the accounting. For example, they do not cover Ms. Spears' assets held outside the estate. and entities formed after the conservatorship was established are not reflected in the inventories. Moreover, the account statements commonly show only the total balance of inflows and outflows, not the individual transactions, making it impossible in many cases to discern the actual purpose or recipient of disbursements from the estate. So they're just keeping really loose records. They don't even really, they're like, oh, we spent this, we spent this, we spent this. And they're saying those are the accounting records, but they're not saying what we spent it on and who it went to. It is sketchy. Because of all of this, as of this date, Kroll is not in a position to independently verify TriStar's take or total earnings. They couldn't figure it out because TriStar was not providing appropriate information. And that just also speaks to their inability to actually have like real accounting documents. Like they literally like, are you guys just incompetent? Obviously, you know, it seems pretty obvious that what's happening here is fraud, allegedly. But seems kind of like that's what this document's saying anyway. So is it alleged? The incoming president of the National Guardianship Association, an organization that represents conservators, told the New York Times that Mr. Spears' engagement of TriStar under these circumstances reeks of conflict of interest. The National Guardianship Association. And raises the troubling question, is the conservatorship making decisions in the best interest of the conservatee or the business manager who they owe a debt to? Additionally, the arrangement is violative of Rule 7.1059 of California's Standard of Conduct for the conservator of the estate. Mr. Spears' conflict of interest with respect to Lou Taylor continued beyond instilling TriStar as a business manager. So that's already a conflict of interest, but there's more. From 2009 until 2013, Mr. Spears allowed Stonebridge Investment, Stonebridge, an entity then 50% owned by Lou Taylor, to manage a portion of Miss Spears' assets. Information obtained from Stonebridge shows that Miss Spears' assets were disbursed from these accounts at Mr. Spears' express direction in 2013. The same year, public records show that Lou Taylor sold her 50% share of Stonebridge. On at least 2 occasions during that time, Lou Taylor's Stonebridge managed these assets. Co-conservator Andrew Wallet expressed concern with these funds being under Stonebridge's control. The conflict of interest is so obvious. How were these judges even allowing this? Let's see what some of you guys are saying. Yeah, Stonebridge. Remember when BJ found that? BJ investigated that and found Stonebridge investment. And then this is like validating all of her work. Let's see. I'm just kind of scamming your guys' comments, see where you guys are at. Okay, let's see what this says. Mr. Spears used Britney's estate to enrich himself and those loyal or useful to him. Some of Mr. Spears' first moves as temporary conservator in 2008 were to rid Miss Spears' circle of individuals willing to advocate on her behalf in the face of his and TriStar's demands. This breaks my heart. You know, like obviously the money stuff is like gross, but like isolating is so, it's tormenting. It's emotional abuse in itself. As noted above, Mr. Spears installed his friend Lou Taylor and her company TriStar as business manager of the estate. At the time, Miss Spears and TriStar were already registered agents for one of Mr. Spears' business entities and were also business managers for Miss Spears' sister, Jamie Lynn Spears. And as noted above, Mr. Spears was indebted to TriStar from a personal loan in early 2008. Mr. Spears also replaced his daughter prior security detail with Black Box Security, owned by his friend, Don Yemeni. They are the ones who ended up surveilling Britney. We will get into this, which according to the above referenced QuickBooks data reviewed by Kroll, and with the same caveats, was ultimately paid $6 million from Miss Spears' estate to spy on her. That's what they did. I was trying to highlight that, but okay. Although Mr. Spears contended that his daughter needed the conservatorship because she was incapable of caring for herself or her affairs, Mr. Spears was intent on ensuring that she continued to generate significant earnings, a sizable portion of which he distributed to himself and those within his inner circle. Almost immediately after the conservatorship was made permanent, he had Miss Spears embark on an international tour, and he petitioned to the court to be paid a percentage of the tour's gross revenues, in addition to the already handsome six-figure salary that he was paid as a conservator. This arrangement allowed him to profit directly from Miss Spears' labor and incentivized him to maximize Miss Spears' output regardless of whether that and her exhausting schedule were in her best interests. So yeah, she can't care for herself. Oh, she's in the conservatorship. Let's send her to an international tour. And I'm going to take a percentage on top of my salary. This man. And, he was approached by Lou Taylor. This is a strategy they do. It's sick. Mr. Spears committed his daughter to record multiple studio albums and perform on several additional tours, including a multi-year residency in Las Vegas, among countless other endeavors, until Miss Spears finally refused in 2019 to continue working such a grueling schedule. Miss Spears' former music director, Mark DeClore, who worked closely with Miss Spears on both the circus tour and the Las Vegas residency, has worked with other music superstars, told me that Mr. Spears worked his daughter to the bone, and she was often and understandably exhausted from the workload. He recounted several instances in which Miss Spears told him she was tired and she just needed a break or to sleep. Delcourt also described how Mr. Spears and TriStar would routinely force Miss Spears against her wishes to sing first thing in the morning, something he said is very uncommon in the industry and that no singer should be forced to do, certainly against his or her wishes. To his dismay, Mr. DeClore was told by Miss Spears' team that her early morning work was scheduled around her lithium doses in order to take advantage of the hours when she was supposedly most productive as a result of the lithium medication she was forced to take, which upon information and belief is a very strong and antiquated drug. Because remember, I know you guys all know, but she was forced to take medication. She didn't have her medical rights. She was forced to work, not even able to access her money. How is that not human trafficking? What is happening at Stanley Mosque? When are we getting accountability? And it's not Britney's job to make these people accountable. It's the state of California. Mr. Spears routinely removed individuals who were not loyal to him. Based upon my investigation, it is apparent that Mr. Spears often sought to silence individuals who spoke out against him or the conservatorship. For example, Miss Spears' former and longtime friend, Felicia Colada, explained that upon gaining control of his daughter's affairs, Mr. Spears fired her business manager and eventually prevented her from being near Miss Spears. Miss Coletta, who has been close to Miss Spears since she was a child, often wasn't even allowed to have a conversation with Miss Spears without others present. She was eventually told by Mr. Spears that she needed to leave because Miss Spears did not want her there. Coletta later learned that this was a lie to keep her away from Britney. Similarly, Britney's former wardrobe coordinator, Tish Yates, revealed that Miss Spears was tortured and recounted that in instances when Miss Spears did try to stand up for herself, Mr. Spears would threaten to keep her from seeing her young sons as a means of control. Now, remember, there are documents saying that Kevin Federline having the majority control over the children was crucial to the conservatorship, because here it even says they were using it against her to submit. Everyone knows that Britney Spears loves her children and has always wanted to be a mother, and they used that against her motherhood. Gates was also abruptly let go after an incident when she tried to help Miss Spears. That just makes you emotional. It's so fucked up. I'm gonna read the comments for a second and chill out. Oh my God. Let's see. This is Shireen Abadi's declaration that Weingarten wanted thrown out. Yes, thank you. Yes. I decided to read it to everybody because it was the first half of the hearing yesterday was his attempt to get this declaration struck. So I wanted everyone to read it, pass it around. I left the link in the description. Make content. Go into this document and make content from everything it says. This was what Alex Weingarten didn't want the public or on the record to know about. Okay, I feel like I can breathe again. Let's see. Let's see what I said. So yeah, she was threatened. Yates was also abruptly let go after an incident where she tried to help Britney. Similarly, Mr. Delcourt, who had worked with Miss Spears for almost 20 years, was suddenly terminated in the middle of a tour for no specific reason. Although it is apparent that it was Mr. Spears, that it was because Mr. Spears was trying to punish Britney by removing anyone with whom she was close or confided. Isolation is a tactic these predators use. We saw it with Nichelle Nichols' case where they isolate and control. Isolate and drain the estate. Miss Spears' tour manager, Dan George, also observed similar controlling conduct, saying the first rule of the conservatorship was that you don't talk about the conservatorship. He said he was warned, be careful, don't get too close. People have a way of disappearing. What does that mean? That sounds like a threat. Mr. Spears also replaced Miss Spears' former nanny, Lourdes Torres. Media reports later indicated that Torres left her job with Britney because she was so disturbed by what was being done to Britney and how she was being emotionally manipulated by the conservatorship. Furthermore, Alex Vlasov, a former employee of Black Box Security, told me that anyone on Britney's security detail who was sympathetic to Britney or who questioned any of the extreme measures taken to control and subjugate her was removed. Mr. Spears directed Black Box Security to use a variety of surveillance methods to invade the privacy of Britney Spears and others, which raised criminal implication for Mr. Spears. On September 24th, 2021, the New York Times published a documentary front-page expose entitled The Surveillance Apparatus That Surrounded Britney Spears. Maybe I'll have to add that to the description later, because that is an important expose. This revealed at the very least that Mr. Spears grossly violated his daughter's privacy by directing Black Box Security, the company charged with protecting Britney, to surreptitiously capture her communications in her most private moments. Based on information obtained from a former employee of Black Box, whistleblower Alex Vlasov. Now remember, this is who Alex Weingarten wanted to depose. This is part of what Roy Paul ruled in favor of Britney, is basically this evidence that Alex Vlasov came forward with. So basically, the whistleblower went to the reporters and he went to Britney's legal team with this evidence. So the Times reported that Mr. Spears and Black Box ran an intense surveillance apparatus that monitored her communications and secretly captured audio recordings from her bedroom, including her interactions and conversations with her boyfriend and her children. Sick. Following publication of these troubling allegations, I personally debriefed and interviewed the whistleblower. Now, part of, what Alex Weingarten, James Spears' lawyer, wants is access to these interviews, to this information that Alex Vlasov has. And, that is what went to the discovery referee, and he was denied access to 90% of that investigation. He is not privileged to, and he spent hours of my time yesterday complaining about that. But you're not getting it, sloppy. You're not getting that. Alex Vlasov at the Bel Air Hotel in Los Angeles, at the direction of counsel for Britney, and I corroborated the Times reporting on Mr. Spears' extensive surveillance efforts, including of Miss Spears' attorney-client communications and private conversations in her bedroom. So not only were they spying on her in her personal bedroom and her personal conversations with her boyfriend and her children, but they were listening in on attorney-client communications. It's illegal. Based upon my training, all of this is, right? But they could argue oh, she's a dependent adult. You cannot argue about gaining access to her attorney conversations. All of it is wrong. All of it. Based upon my training and experience, including as a special agent with the FBI, yes, go Shireen, and having debriefed and interviewed many hundreds of individuals and witnesses, I concluded that Mr. Vlasov was highly credible. So she credits the whistleblower and his evidence. At the outset, it is worth noting that Mr. Vlasov, the whistleblower, told me it was very clear that Black Box treated James Spears, Mr. Spears, not his daughter, as its client. Mr. Spears was the person making the decisions and giving the directions to Black Box, including, as discussed further below, the directions to surveil his daughter. Mr. Spears was close to Black Box CEO Eden Yemeni. Even before the establishment of the conservatorship, and was responsible for selecting Black Box to provide security for Miss Spears under the conservatorship. In fact, Mr. Yemeni evidently created Black Box in order to handle Britney's account. So it was evidently created for Britney. Black Box didn't even exist evidently before Britney. They found this man to create this company, which, by the way, Alex Weingarten yesterday said that he was operating in a black box because he doesn't have access to the investigation. And I thought that was very telling of how he operates. According to Mr. Vlasov, Black Box provided more than just security for Miss Spears. Black Box also occupied that Vlasov referred to as a caretaker role. At Mr. Spears' direction, Black Box staff administered Britney prescription and over-the-counter medications and controlled her cell phone and credit card. The security company that didn't even exist before Britney had this much power. I'm just going to peep what you guys are saying. Where is Britney's billions of dollars? Oh my God, Alexa, thank you for sharing the file. Yes, you guys should all read this and share it around. It was a document that James Spears doesn't want on the record, and so we are reading it to everyone. Okay, I'm just peeping your guys's comments. Yeah, I couldn't imagine the gaslighting that she had gone through with her dad. I know. it makes me emotional, like, to even think about it. Like, I could not, honestly, the strength is so inspiring. Court documents indicate that Sam Ingham knew or suspected that they were being recorded. Interesting you bring up Sam Ingham in that, because I did want to touch on this yesterday in the hearing. Matt Rosengard was talking about Sam Ingham, and he said that Sam Ingham hasn't been answering his questions, that he's been emailing him, and that Sam Ingham had no response. And what he was questioning Sam Ingham about was the surveillance, the 12th accounting, about certain objections, other various questions about the surveillance, and TriStar's change of structure in 2019. Because what happened in 2019, and it will be brought up in this document because Miss Abadi does cover it, is that when Britney said she didn't want to work anymore, they demanded like $500,000. That's not even a standard industry practice for a management company. And guess what? Guess what James Spears said to Lou? Sure, anything you want. Because that's his puppet master. Yes, I think that they would believe that they would get away with it. Exactly. They did not expect all of us to buy these court documents and read it and rally and get Britney Spears, let Britney Spears know that there is support and that people believe her and that we honor her and that we are there for her. And then she took those steps herself to speak up. And that is what catapulted her freedom. It's us creating a climate of safety for survivors, letting survivors know that we're listening and that we believe them so they can free themselves. That's what these movements are about. So let's go back to this document. Okay, so Mr. Spears directed Black Box to surreptitiously mirror Miss Spears' iPhone content contemporaneously and in real time. Black Box was already monitoring Britney's phone when Mr. Vlasov began working there in 2012. Mr. Vlasov, the whistleblower, expressed concern to Mr. Yemeni, the CEO of Black Box. Mr. Yemeni told him not to worry, that the monitoring was supposedly authorized. At first, Black Box used a USB-based software program that monitored Miss Spears' BlackBerry. However, this software did not work well on Apple devices. Miss Spears switched from a BlackBerry to an iPhone in or around 2013, causing a temporary cessation of monitoring. Cessation. So probably they had to stop for a second. Mr. Spears expressed great concern about not having visibility into his daughter's phone activity during this period. Ugh, what a sicko. According to Mr. Vlasov, Mr. Vlasov was tasked by Black Box and Yemeni with finding monitoring software and installing it as a hidden app. One Britney couldn't see, to which she did not have the password onto Britney's phone. Different solutions were tried, most of which captured text messages, phone call logs, notes, and app activity, and one which captured phone conversations. Mr. Vlasov was tasked with reviewing the monitoring content and relaying that information through Yemeni to Mr. Spears. Sometimes Mr. Vlasov provided information to Ms. Spears as monitored communications directly to Mr. Spears. Mr. Vlasov noted that the iPhone monitoring solutions functioned poorly when Apple pushed out new iOS updates. For that reason, Mr. Spears wanted a different solution to avoid gaps in monitoring. That makes me want to keep my iPhone and not get an Android because, good, make it hard for them. What? Mr. Vlasov told me that in or around 2015, at Robin Greenhill's suggestion, who works for TriStar, right? She is somebody who is going to be deposed on January 29th or 30th. At Robin Greenhill's suggestion, so at TriStar's suggestion, Mr. Spears instructed Blackbox to mirror the content of Miss Spears' iCloud to a separate device that could be reviewed. At the time, Mr. Vlasov told his boss, Mr. Yemeni, that they should not monitor the phone in this way because it made the contents of Britney's iCloud vulnerable to intrusion, i.e., it would allow malicious third parties to compromise Britney's private information and make it public. Mr. Yemeni relayed Mr. Vlasov's concerns to Mr. Spears and Robin Greenhill, but they said they were willing to take that risk. Does that sound like somebody whose fiduciary duty is to protect Britney Spears and her estate? Because here they are making it easier for Britney to be hacked. I mean, we already know the answers to this, but yet another example. Upon receiving Mr. Spears' instructions, Blackbox purchased an iPad, which was then linked to Britney's iCloud account, allowing the contents of Miss Spears' iPhone, which was backed up to the cloud, to be simultaneously accessed and reviewed from the iPad. The iPad was kept in a safe in Blackbox's offices. Messrs. Yemeni or Vlasov would regularly review the iPad contents, i.e., text messages, videos, and other personal data mirrored from Miss Spears' iPhone, and they would put the data in encrypted folders before sending them to Mr. Spears for his review. According to Vlasov, Blackbox sent Britney's personal communications to Mr. Spears at his explicit request. Mr. Spears would on occasion ask Blackbox to send him specific items from Britney's iCloud, such as therapy notes or text messages. It should be noted that Mr. Spears was aware that he was expressly prohibited from reviewing Britney's therapy notes without her permission following his removal as conservatorship of the person in 2019. In fact, after Mr. Spears expressed displeasure to counsel for the conservator in April 2019, that he didn't have power to see her physical records, counsel explained to him that he would need Miss Spears' permission to see notes on what she discusses with her psychiatrist. So it was even ruled in 2019 that he was not allowed to have access to the notes with her therapist. Communications between Britney and her personal court-appointed attorney, Sam Ingham, were among the private communications that Blackbox and Mr. Spears monitored. Mr. Vlasov told me that Mr. Spears was particularly interested in his daughter's attorney-client communications and wanted regular updates from Blackbox on the substance of those privileged messages. Surveillance of Britney's communications with her lawyer continued until at least 2020, when Mr. Yemeni instructed Mr. Vlasov to cease reviewing attorney-client privileges communications. On the same day he gave those instructions, Mr. Yemeni forwarded Mr. Vlasov an email from Sam Ingham to counsel for the conservator and Yemeni, among others, with the subject line, Britney's phone. In that email, Mr. Ingham sought confirmation from conservators' counsel in connection with the purchase of a new phone for Britney. No one other than Britney can access her calls, voicemails, or texts directly or indirectly. So the court-appointed lawyer is even saying, no, you can't do this. The following day, Geraldine Weil, counsel for the conservator, also she was involved in Michael Jackson's case as well, responded to Mr. Ingham in relevant part. Jamie confirms that he has no access to her calls, voicemail, or texts. Miss Weil went on to say, we don't know if Britney has given access to those items to anyone else, for example, her boyfriend or children. That she did not state that Mr. Spears and Blackbox had been systemically accessing Britney's text message and other communications for years, including her communication with Mr. Ingham. So she did not know. I have reviewed a copy of this email exchange dated August 23 and August 24, 2020, which was provided by conservators counsel John Zabel. So this is an example of something that John Zabel was able to access as a temporary conservator. Because when you are a conservator, you do have access to like special documents. So I guess this is an example. Regardless of whether the surveillance of Ms. Spears' attorney-client communications did in fact stop in August 2020, Mr. Vlasov told me that the monitoring of other content on Britney's phone did not cease until early 2021. At this point, Free Britney was in full force. Up until that time, Mr. Vlasov regularly overheard Mr. Yemeni updating Mr. Spears on the contents of the phone devices used by his daughter. The New York Times reported in its September 24th, 2020 expose that it had reviewed screenshots of messages shared by Mr. Vlasov, which corroborated that Mr. Spears monitored his daughter's text message conversations with her mother, her boyfriend, her close friends, and her court-appointed lawyer. In addition, I have personally reviewed communication provided to me by Mr. Vlasov from his personal devices, which evidence black boxes monitoring of Britney's communications and further confirms that Black Box had within its possession copies of Britney's attorney-client privileged communications with her court-appointed attorney obtained through surveillance. So it's just example of all of these violations. So how do we get a federal investigation? I'm reading the comments now. How do we get a federal investigation on each of these human rights violations? Exactly. What do we need to do? Like protest like the Department of Justice, the state bar? Like we want accountability. Let's see what you guys are saying. I wish Britney would have emancipated herself when she was younger. I know. Let's see what you guys are saying. The second party who gave permission. This is so unhinged and disgusting. I know, you guys. If I was a judge, I already say I've read enough to go arrest them. I know, I wish you were the judge. I wish that's what was happening in court, you guys. I would be jumping for joy. Oh my God, I wish that was happening. And maybe one day we can get real accountability and judges in there who will not stand for this. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. So there's just literally so many examples of just like this, like they're just reiterating over and over and over again that they're listening to her even talk to her freaking attorney. I know from my training and experience as an FBI agent that the Federal Criminal Code prohibits the intentional interception of any wire, oral, or electronic communication. And the obtaining of stored electronic communications through the unauthorized access of a facility through which an electronic communication service is provided. So she's just saying, hey, I know from my training that the Federal Criminal Code prohibits this. So she's like, this is against the law. This is against the law. Let's see. Jensen says, y'all know this whole thing is going to take years, but honestly, it probably should. The con was for so long. A quick trial would be a slap in the face. I know. It takes so long. And it's like, I don't even know, because it's like the trial that we're having isn't a criminal trial. You know, it's all about these fees. So it's like, you know, I'm not a lawyer to know the procedures to get accountability in this way. But I know that law enforcement has to do something. I know that it's up to law enforcement. I think charges might happen after the Lou depot, but just my opinion. I would love that. I dream of that because it's like anything that they gain access to, like I'm hoping they just like pass it on to the feds, the Federal Criminal Code. Let's see. Luna needs to be in jail too. And Luna was the judge for Nichelle Nichols, you know, and if you guys look at Luna's reviews, they're not good. So I was really scared for her to be the judge. And you know, actually, them deferring some of the discovery rulings to Roy Paul was, I liked it. I wasn't sure how to feel about it because it was James Spears's, lawyer's suggestion, Roy Paul, but he ruled in favor for Britney. And Matt has said multiple times that he's very fair. So, you know, it's almost like I'm happier that they're doing, you know, that they're like, that there's Roy Paul there. There's multiple judges making these decisions and not just Luna. Let's see. Mystifying is saying Live Nation has two federal investigations right now, and the Senate and Department of Justice specifically want to see artist contracts. Senate has already subpoenaed them. Amazing. That's amazing, because it's like, conservatorship law is one thing, but as I've learned from like Alexa and like Eat Predators, like they will hide their crimes in these contracts. Like they will make people sign NDAs, and like put like make it so you can't divulge any information in the contracts. Like, we're lucky Alex Vlasov, the whistleblower, stepped up and told the truth, because I'm sure he signed a lot of contracts that were scary, that they could sue him for divulging information, but he did the right thing. So I am very, protect whistleblowers, essentially. Right to the Department of Justice. I agree, MX. I agree. Right to the Department of Justice. So I actually have a series of like postcards. Like when I first started my activism, I would like make these postcards, and they were to the governor and the attorney general, and they would say like, I demand an investigation into Britney Spears' case with the case number. And I would just get people to sign them, because I figured not everyone's going to write letters, but if I can just get somebody to sign the postcards and we can send them out, then we could flood the governor with these postcards and try to put pressure on him to look into Britney's case, as well as to sign the legislation that would help conservatees get out of conservatorships. So maybe what we can do is put the Department of Justice on those postcards, flood the Department of Justice with postcards, and protest. And I would be very interested in doing that. It might be that Britney needs to be the one who brings charges through the police for the privacy violations. In my country, this would be the case. Interesting. Well, what if Matt Rosengart just passed on the evidence to law enforcement? Aren't they obligated that like if they're aware of a crime to like go after those criminals, Let's see. Charlie wants to pick MX's brain. You guys pick away. I want to do that. Let's do a letter writing campaign. Absolutely. I'm super down to do a letter writing campaign. Oh yeah, Rachel mentioned Astroworld, because also Lou Taylor is also, there's lawsuits with her about Astroworld because Travis Scott was her client. Yeah, Charlie said she loves snail mail. Me too. I love snail mail also, and I love your snail mail, and I have it somewhere. Wait, I want to show everybody. Charlie made these. Happy holidays. They are Britney Spears, the Army General. They're so sweet. So Charlie loves snail mail. Sorry, I'm just showing off. I'm like, look at this. Okay, wait. I do want to expose everything. Let's see. Crossing fingers that all these people are brought to justice. Let's do it. Postcard with QR code to link to this doc. Yo, that is so smart. That is actually really smart. Okay. So let's see where we're up to over here. Mr. Spears instructed Black Box to secretly record activity and conversation in Miss Spears' bedroom. Is that where we're up to? Yeah. Based on my debriefing of Mr. Vlasov, I also corroborated with Miss Spears instructed Black Box to place a secret recording device in Britney's bedroom. Mr. Vlasov became aware of this separate form of surveillance in or around 2018 when Mr. Yemeni and a fellow Black Box employee asked Mr. Vlasov to wipe the contents of a USB drive that was connected to a digital recording device. Mr. Vlasov described them both as being extremely nervous when they requested that he wipe or erase the recordings. At the time, Mr. Vlasov observed the digital recordings device had an SD card and a battery pack attached to it and was covered in duct tape. So this is basically them saying that they were extremely nervous and they wanted to wipe the contents because at this point they knew that they were in the wrong. And this is my first official live. Yeah, sorry, I'm like going back to your comments. Thank you guys for all being here for my first live. I really appreciate it. Yes, Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. I love you guys. Yes. Okay. So that just shows right there that they are guilty and they know it. So sketchy. And so what Alex Vossoff decided to do was tell on them. We love that. According to Mr. Vlasov, Black Box was initially responsible for suggesting that a secret listening device be planted in Britney's bedroom, but Mr. Spears loved the idea and approved and instructed that the installation move forward. The Black Box employee who placed the secret device in Britney's bedroom explained to Mr. Vlasov that he did so by duct taping it behind furniture so it could not be seen, and that he added a separate battery pack to the recording device to permit continuous recording for a longer period of time. He further explained that he and Mr. Yemeni had listened to the recordings made in Miss Spears' bedroom but found nothing useful. What are they looking for? When Mr. Vlasov accessed the USB drive that had been connected to the recording device, he saw that there appeared to be files from 2016, 2017, 2018 on the device with hundreds of hours of audio recording. They wanted this so bad. I think that they sent people into the movement to try to see if anybody actually heard the audio recordings. Just gonna say that. According to Mr. Vlasov, the recordings contained conversations between Miss Spears and her boyfriend and between Miss Spears and her children, which, by the way, no one heard that. I don't know. Who am I to say? But Alex did the right thing, and he passed that recording on to her lawyers and the New York Times. And that's how the Abadi Declaration has all of this information, was because of this hero, this whistleblower. So according to Mr. Vlasov, the recordings contain conversation between Britney, her boyfriend, and between Britney and her children. According to Mr. Vlasov, some of the audio files were time-stamped, and one of the files appeared to have been recorded during the time that the court investigator came to interview Britney at her home. Ugh. California is a two-party consent state. The California Invasion of Privacy Act requires that all parties consent to a recording of their confidential conversations and provides for criminal penalties. This is why this document is a roadmap for their crimes. For individuals who record communications without the necessary two-party consent, which they did not have. Black Box improperly surveilled individuals of interest to Mr. Spears. So this is a whole other can of worms, is them surveilling people close to Britney as well. And there is some interesting tidbits in here about things that they did that were literally against the law. Oh my God, I love you guys for encouraging me to do this. No, I'm just so happy to be able to know that there's like a community out there that cares about what's right and just, and that we can come together and like get this information out there, especially when this predatory abuser wants it hidden. Black Box improperly surveilled individuals to interest of Mr. Spears. Black Box and Mr. Yemeni would also surveil individuals of interest to Mr. Spears, including based upon my training, knowledge, and experience as a special agent with the FBI, through the use of methods typically only available to law enforcement, and then only with a court order, for which Black Box charged Britney's estate. So they charged Britney in order to be able to use a certain surveillance method that's typically only available for law enforcement. And even then, law enforcement would need a court order. Law enforcement can't even spy on people like that legally unless the court orders it. And here we have Black Box being above the law, doing it and charging Britney for it as well. For example, Mr. Vlasov told me that Mr. Yemeni had a relationship with a private investigator who was somehow able to obtain private phone records from the telephone company, and that's illegal. And Mr. Yemeni used this private investigator to obtain the phone records for and among other people, Lynn Spears and Britney Spears' masseuse, to determine if they were speaking with the media. According to Mr. Vlasov, Mr. Yemeni would also obtain GPS ping data on individuals of interest to Mr. Spears that would allow him to ascertain those individuals' exact locations. This is why something I've learned just like being around like technical people is like at protests and whatnot, turn off your Wi-Fi and turn off your Bluetooth, because this is something that they can hack, and then they would gain access to this GPS ping data. Mr. Spears would identify individuals who were in contact with Miss Spears, including former romantic interests. So they were hacking their phones, it seems like. And I don't know if that's exactly how they're doing it. I just know that if you do hack a phone like that, you can get this GPS information. And so, I mean, it might not be the same thing, but regardless, here they're saying that they did have this GPS information and that they were spying on her former romantic interests, who he wanted Black Box to physically surveil. If during their physical surveillance the team lost the individual, Mr. Yemeni would make a call to one of his contacts and would soon thereafter be sent a specific GPS coordinate by text message that disclosed the individual's location. Mr. Vlasov was with Mr. Yemeni on at least one occasion where this occurred, so he witnessed it. It's wild, absolutely wild. Based on my training, knowledge, and experience, including as a special agent with the FBI, lawfully obtaining cell phone location data via this methodology should only be available in discrete situations not applicable here, and even then only with a court order. Upon information and belief, Black Box Security has effectively blackballed Mr. Vlasov from the security industry, despite the fact that he is a whistleblower who, in my opinion, acted honorably in disclosing Black Box's practices, which occurred with the knowledge and the discretion, and the direction of Mr. Spears. So they blackballed him. This is why people are scared to speak up. I talked about, he probably had some kind of contract, but not only that, but, they were like, he disclosed like the industry illegal secrets, and so don't let him in, don't hire him. And that's what people are scared of when they want to speak up. But here, we have this former FBI agent saying that he acted honorably, and I know that he did. Mr. Spears engaged in repeated financial misconduct, self-dealing, and mismanagement during his tenure as conservator. Kroll's investigation into Mr. Spears' management of the estate, though ongoing, has identified multiple instances in which Mr. Spears engaged in apparent financial misconduct as conservator, including by using his daughter's assets to pay his own legal and other personal expenses and the legal expenses of his friend and undisclosed lender benefactor Lou Taylor, making excessive payments to Miss Taylor's company, TriStar, exploiting Britney's resources to advance his own unsuccessful career as a cook or television personality, and otherwise engaging in self-dealing with and mismanagement of Britney's assets. So that is the summary of this part of how he repeatedly had financial misconduct and self-dealing. So Mr. Spears authorized Lou Taylor's personal legal fees to be paid by Miss Spears' estate. This was also brought up yesterday. This was also outlined yesterday, that Lou Taylor sued an advocate because they had bought a website. It will explain it here, that was like in Lou Taylor's name. And Lou Taylor sued this individual and then charged Britney's estate. Okay. As set forth below, Mr. Spears used estate funds to pay the legal fees of Lou Taylor, the personal friend to whom he was indebted. I like how they reiterate, to whom he was indebted $40,000 at the time he placed his daughter into the conservatorship, even though his counsel advised him that the expenditure was an inappropriate use of the assets of Britney's estate. yeah, so basically this was mentioned in court. Vivian Thoreen, who we don't like her, that's James Spears' former lawyer. She even wrote an email advising against this, saying this doesn't actually have anything to do with Britney. You guys didn't even use like the right like terminology to make it seem like it did have anything to do with Britney. Like y'all didn't even try to pretend that it had anything to do with Britney. You cannot charge this to the estate, but they did it anyway. On July 1st, 2019, Lou Taylor filed a lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia against Brian S. Kuchar. Lou M. Taylor versus Brian S. Kuchar for allegedly utilizing two domains, louMtaylor.com and louMtaylor.net. And I think that it was actually like one of those domains that Kuchar was actually responsible for. So they were like literally wrong. And I'm pretty sure that's the case. So they bought it to tarnish Taylor's name and mark, right? So they bought these websites to say Lou Taylor is a bad person who, put Britney in this conservatorship and is self-dealing, and, and then Lou went ahead and pressed charges or, filed a lawsuit. So Ms. Taylor was initially represented by Stokes Wagner ALC and then later by Sperry IP Law LLC that were located in Atlanta, Georgia. Based on my review of the court filings and internal email communications, it is clear that this lawsuit was a personal matter related to and concerning Ms. Taylor personally, and that as a business manager who handled Britney's bills, investments, money, and her taxes, and thereby owed fiduciary duties to Britney and her estate, these legal fees should have never been charged to Britney or her estate, and Mr. Spears, who also had fiduciary duties, never should have allowed them to occur. Now remember, these are all things we had access to. A lot of these things are recent because we were able to gain access to this recently. But this has been going on for like 14 years. If Britney's team is gaining access to some of these other records, I am sure that it is piled with so many other self-dealings and mismanagement. But here we have evidence of this one. So neither the complaint nor the response to the complaint mentions Ms. Spears. Rather, it is clear that the suit was filed in order to benefit Ms. Taylor personally. Nonetheless, in March 2020, the law firm with whom Mr. Spears and Ms. Taylor worked in Los Angeles invoiced Britney's estate in the amount of $153,000, $759.99, right? Okay, so much money for legal services performed by these law firms for Lou. After a modest reduction was applied, these fees were paid by one of Britney's business entities on March 10, 2020. So Britney paid for them. And could you believe they want more? These lawyers, like the lawyers want more from Britney. It's like, God. At this request of Mr. Spears and with his authorization, TriStar, as business manager and bill payer, effectively paid itself in connection with this transaction. Mr. Spears' improper use of his daughter's money to pay Lou Taylor's personal legal fees was noted by Mr. Spears' attorney at Holland & Knight, who wrote to Mr. Spears on February 9th, 2021, that the Kuchar pleadings I just forwarded to you further support my conclusion that Lou should pay the fees of the Atlanta lawyers and more specifically reimburse the conservatorship. Neither the complaint nor the answer makes any reference to Britney. No connection is made between Britney and the lawsuit. Lou doesn't even try to weave it into the complaint, which makes the sell that the conservatorship should pay her fees even more tenuous. Like this email always bothered me because it's like, which makes the sell. Like, she's like, you didn't even sell it right. It just shows how they like angulate things, or like, I don't know, it's like they create angles in order to try to put things on Britney's estate, which we have seen in other leaked emails of them trying to reword certain expenses so that way they would fall under Britney's estate and she would pay for them. So I'm just going to peep some of the comments again. BJ's work plagiarized. That is so funny. I mean, I'm glad that like it's now in these court documents and it's like helping Britney, but literally BJ like she has done so much. Like she handed this case to them. Like really, like there was just so much investigation from like the B Army and like BJ specifically that we have been seeing validated in court documents for the last 3 years. Let's see. His own attorney telling him they can't charge Britney, but they haven't withdrawn the request. Exactly. His own lawyer. Wait. His own lawyer advised him not to. Yup. And Matt was talking about that yesterday, that there was like another thing that like I'm like forgetting, but it was like Sam Ingham also had advised James Spears not to do something and he did. So this is a pattern. Let's see. Okay. So Mr. Spears authorized more than at least $300,000 in excessive or overpayments to TriStar. Mr. Spears allowed TriStar to profit from his daughter's estate in other more systematic ways that were also improper and inconsistent with his duties as a fiduciary. In particular, Mr. Spears approved outsized commissions and other payments to TriStar, even though the estate apparently had no written contractual obligation to TriStar. To date, I have been able to identify any formal written agreement. I have been unable to identify any formal written agreement between TriStar and the estate that spells out TriStar's responsibilities and the commissions and fees that it was to be paid. So like they can't find a contract of like, what do you even do here? Based on this and other contextual factors, I believe no such written contract was ever executed. How is that in Britney's best interest for there not to be a real contract in place with her and her business manager? Even though it appears that Mr. Spears failed to obtain an executed written contract with TriStar, the QuickBooks accounting data obtained from TriStar shows that it was paid exorbitant commissions and fees over the course of the conservatorship. And when they say the QuickBooks accountings, they're saying that because there's such broad like categories of like we said before, like, oh, like this amount we paid this amount. And it's like, okay, cool. That's your documentation for your accounting, but we don't know what that amount was paid for or how much that amount was paid to. Like, so they're saying QuickBooks accounting because it's like, it's basically just this really like vague accounting information. That's the only accounting information they were providing. This included payment to TriStar of a percentage of Britney's earnings, creating a perverse incentive for TriStar to maximize Britney's work output, even if doing so was not in Britney's personal best interest. This is a conservatorship of the person. They were trying to say that Britney needed help, like emotionally and whatnot, and yet they are monetary incentivized to maximize Britney's work output. It's Britney called it sex trafficking, labor trafficking, human trafficking, like. So they were incentivized to do such to maximize Britney's work output, even if it wasn't in Britney's best interests. When Britney took a hiatus from performing in early 2019, TriStar's ability to profit from her estate decreased significantly. On November 12th, 2019, Lou Taylor emailed Mr. Spears saying that TriStar's commission only garnered them $179,000 thus far in 2019. And because Britney did not perform, Miss Taylor wanted to ensure TriStar obtained a minimum of $500,000 per year. So she requested a retroactive payment of like $300,000 for 2019 and an alteration to their agreement going forward so that TriStar would be paid 5% or $500,000 per year, whichever was greater, whichever is more money for them. And Matt brought this up in court as well yesterday. Taylor wrote, Jamie, we just ran time and billing for Britney and all of the entities. We have a $400,000 loss on time and billing this year. We have been paid only $179,000. I want to stay at 5% commission, but set a floor of $500,000 a year, meaning we would not get paid less than $500,000 a year in 2020. So we would get a retainer payment each month and each quarter, settle it up against the commission. Then next year, we will look at time and billing again. Is this approved? Mr. Spears did not question, but instead responded to this email, approved. And a payment of over $300,000 was made from Britney's estate by TriStar to TriStar on December 21st, 2019. Mr. Spears exploited his role as conservator to promote his own business and pilot a television show called Cookin', Cruisin', and Chaos with James Spears. Like, so absolutely cringe. Like, I'm going to pause there because that's a whole other extra cringy thing. But like, Lou Taylor, are you serious? And then when they finally started getting like in the spotlight for their criminal activity, their abuse, Lou just dipped. She just dipped. But you know, she's getting deposed this month, so she didn't get far. She didn't get far. Yeah, $300,000 that they were never owed. Exactly. Okay, so now let's get into this cringy TV show, this pilot TV show. This is obviously just like his own thing. Like, ugh. Okay, so Mr. Spears' Cookin', Cruisin', and Chaos Motorhome. Okay, based upon my review of public record information and my interview with Mark Delcourt, the longtime musical director of Britney, Mr. Spears exploited his role as conservative to create his own business. And relatedly, to try to launch his own television series, acquiring an expensive tour bus for that purpose, and using the time and expertise of Britney's touring staff or crew to assist in this and other efforts. It's so gross. I interviewed and spoke with Mr. Delcourt regarding his experience and observations during his lengthy tenure working for Britney, including for a number of years following the establishment of the conservatorship. Mr. Delcourt reported that approximately 2010 or 2011, he was told that Mr. Spears had spent several $100,000 to purchase a tour bus for his own personal use. Meanwhile, Britney doesn't even have access to her money. And he approved $300,000, approved several $100,000 for a freaking tour bus nobody wants. What do we need this for? We don't want to watch his TV show. When he then outfitted with barbecue which he then outfitted with barbecue grills and other specialized cooking equipment. So he's decking out this tour bus with cooking equipment, and Britney can't even buy a pair of shoes that she wants. Remember, Robin Greenhill wouldn't let her buy like a pair of Skechers? Like, ugh. I have identified no streams of revenue to Mr. Spears other than the more than $6 million that Mr. Spears took from the estate in salary and commissions, which he in fact disclosed, that would have sourced the purchase price and retrofitting of the bus. So they're saying he couldn't even afford this. At least given Mr. Spears' dire financial situation prior to becoming a conservator, including his bankruptcy, Mr. Spears was able to afford the luxury of an expensive tour bus only because of the degree to which he enriched himself as a conservator. I have seen a photograph of a truck with the name Cookin' Cruisin' and Chaos emblazoned on the side in the area where Mr. Spears is known to reside in Louisiana. And I am also aware that Mr. Spears owns a catering company called Cookin' Cruisin' and Chaos LLC, and that this company has several vehicles registered to it, including 3 vehicles that are or were at some point co-owned by TriStar. So here we have TriStar again. TriStar again, and while James Spears is sick with an amputated leg, TriStar is going to award shows, managing A-list celebrities. Absolutely fucking not. The hell is going on? These celebrities need to ditch TriStar. The hell, they're wrapped up in everything. People were worried that this would get pinned on Britney's family. Mr. Spears is horrible, but it was Lou Taylor who approached him and do you think he came up with this conservatorship idea? No, this conservatorship strategy is a copy and paste strategy that they do to over 1 million. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of every conservatorship case in America, but there's over 1 million people who are in a conservatorship right now. And, every one that we've really looked into appears to be corrupt. And Lou Taylor is still out there walking free? I am so looking forward to this deposition this month. I wish I could be a fly on the wall. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Someone said, how has Larry Rudolph stayed out of all of this? Thank you, Michelle. How has he stayed out of all of this? We had a sign at the TriStar protest. We protested TriStar. Alexa, Nicholas, thank you so much for your efforts. She was literally facing a stalker at the time who was sent to her by, we saw a connection with this stalker to Dan Schneider, right? There's these paid plants that try to disrupt our efforts, right? And she endured that to protest TriStar. Eat predators. Powerful. Let's see. Lou is protected by the industry. Power Players, the CEO of Live Nation, is her mentor. MX Defying. Thank you so much, Melanie Carlson. Yep. She talks about Live Nation all the time. She talks about Irving Azoff, who is the CEO of Live Nation and Ticketmaster. And, it has been written in Lou Taylor's articles that was her mentor. So these are power players in the music industry. And we need to protest them. We need awareness on this. We want these celebrities to leave them, ditch them, get rid of them. We need protection. We need, especially music and art. As I said, that shapes culture. What are these predatory people doing here, profiting off of this, controlling us? They will eventually throw her under the bus, I think. I think so, too. She's exposed. She's caught. Look at what we're reading. Yeah, the player that got Britney in Vegas, Lou manages him. Oh, wait, what? Does she? The Spurs guy? Holy, what? Is that true? Oh, my God. Someone sent me an article about that. If she pleads the fifth, it makes her look more guilty. Yeah, her dodging all those depositions, makes her look so guilty. Alexa, I love you so much. Literally, I'm so proud of you. On behalf of B Army, thank you so much for, facing all of that, to, show up to TriStar. And usually when we protest TriStar, we would go across the street. But when we rolled out with Alexa, she's absolutely not. We're going right up to their door. The freaking power, the powerhouse that is Alexa Nicholas. I'm in awe. Yeah, we went right up to their door. And it was her stalker actually walked in after setting off a megaphone and trying to disrupt our chants for TriStar. He walked into TriStar. It makes me wonder if he's in contact with anybody there or tries to be, right? So let's see. Larry merged his company with Live Nation in 2010. He's protected. Something LN gave Larry a new company 1 month before Britney was freed. Yeah, what is going on with Larry Rudolph? He's somehow been able to escape these court documents. Let's see. Isn't Gwen and Taylor with TriStar? I hate it. We need to pull up a full client list from TriStar. We need to get, we need TriStar's clients to start dipping out. I have my own little story with Meghan Trainor, who's managed by TriStar, who I think she's been leveraging all of this I'll talk good about you, Lou, if you get me a seat at the table with the Kardashians. Next thing you know, she's on the seat of, sitting with the Kardashians. So I do think that, this information is affecting Lou and her power, as people like Meghan Trainor possibly leverage that. I'll pull up, I'm going to talk about that another time. But let's see. Where is Lindsay Lohan right now? I hope she left the country. Yeah, because Lou Taylor approached Lindsay Lohan's father and tried to do something similar to her, to put her in a conservatorship. But Lindsay's dad said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But that's not what Mr. Spears said. Oh, Alexa Nicholas saying, I wanted them to see us and hear us. That's right. That is right. We will not be silenced. They should all just start their own label. I wonder if that would work. I'm assuming there's a lot to go along with that, so I'm sure it's not as easy as it sounds, right? It's we need to have a push for more independence with artists. That's what I initially was advocating for, and then I found out about Britney's case, right? And I was like, wow, another reason why artists need to be independent. You know what I mean? Or I'm not saying it's so much work for artists to be independent as well, because then they need to be a manager and a PR person and marketing, and it's wearing all these hats. So I understand that collaborations are important, but these contracts that are put in place, again, why I think it's important for us to understand legal terms so that we are not signing away our rights to these predatory businesses and companies and labels and management firms. Okay, it's gonna peep. Okay, so let's see. I stand, Lila Stitch. I stand with Britney Spears and Alexa Nicholas. Me too. Oh, yep, Jensen. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Meghan Trainor shushed Trisha Paytas when Trisha brought up Britney on her podcast and was like, we don't talk about her here. My management is amazing. Exactly. And then in that same interview, she made a comment, oh, please set me up with the Kardashians. And then a couple of weeks later or whatever, there she is at the Kardashian house. Oh, I won't say anything bad about you. It's almost like leverage. I have quite a lot to say about Meghan Trainor, but I'm going to save that for another video. Let's see. So clients Lou and Irving have had together at the same time Meghan Trainor, Prince for the Prince estate, Gwen, Florida Georgia line, Travis Scott, etc. Thank you, Melanie, for bringing that up. It's midnight. Oh, good night. Good night, Rachel. You're so sweet. Thank you for tuning in. I know it's late. I only have unfortunately there's another 7 pages in this document, but I'm gonna try to focus and just whip through it so we can finish for tonight. And I will continue talking about this another time. Thank you guys have been so supportive. I feel way more comfortable going live, so I will go live more often. Okay, so what a weird thing with this cooking cruise and chaos, right? So he basically retrofitted this tour bus outside of Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, where Britney and her crew were rehearsing for the Las Vegas residency. Around that time, James Spears approached Mr. Delcourt to request that Mr. Delcourt use his experience and expertise in digital recording to help Mr. Spears record a promotional reel that he intended to use to pitch his own pilot cooking show entitled Cookin', Cruisin' and Chaos with James Spears. Dude, when he says he wants to be Britney Spears, he means it. Damn. Understanding that Mr. Spears had the power to hire and fire tour personnel. Oh, yeah. So they're saying they're not going to say no to him including Mr. Delcourt. Mr. Delcourt felt he was forced to oblige. They probably did not. They were probably like, this is the stupidest shit. Like, you are not Britney. Britney is a star. Sit down. No one wants to do cooking, cruising, and chaos. You got enough chaos on your own. We don't need to be involved. Mr. Spears never offered to pay for Mr. Delcourt's services, which would have cost Mr. Spears a significant amount of money if he had not had access to and freely availed himself of that access to highly trained professionals such as Mr. Delcourt working for his daughter. Okay, now here we have this. Speaking of plants, speaking of trying to divide movements, here we have Mr. Spears billed the estate for efforts to oppose the Free Britney movement. Mr. Spears also used estate funds to oppose the Free Britney movement, which in recent years supported the termination of the conservatorship in the interests of Britney and arguably against his own best interests in view of his financial remuneration, say that right, from the conservatorship. When the Free Britney movement gained momentum, Mr. Spears instructed Black Box to conduct investigation into certain members of the movement. This is why, please be nice to other advocates. Please, they have endured so much. So much they've endured. Do not bully other advocates. Please, please. Mr. Vlasov argued that this was not a good use of Black Box's time or resources, as the Free Britney fans did not represent a threat to Britney, in contrast to threats from stalkers. Despite Mr. Vlasov's arguments, and despite the fact that the Free Britney movement was a reputational or financial threat to Lou Taylor and Mr. Spears personally, rather than to Britney Spears, who wanted her freedom, Black Box conducted investigation on several individuals associated with the Free Britney movement, a fact that I have independently corroborated based on emails that I have reviewed. Oh my God, imagine reading those emails. Based upon our review of public filings and QuickBooks data provided by TriStar, it appears that these investigations of Britney Spears' supporters were billed to her estate. So they took Britney's money to spy on us. Mr. Spears charged Britney Spears' estate for legal fees related to his serious altercation with and harassment of Britney Spears' son. So Britney actually had to pay for that, for his legal fees. After that is tormenting. After Mr. Spears was accused of assaulting or abusing his 13-year-old grandson in August 2019, as widely reported in the media, Mr. Spears negotiated the scope of a domestic violence restraining order against him. Despite the fact that work on this matter was for the benefit of Mr. Spears to resolve the potential reputational fallout for his violent actions towards Miss Spears' young son, Mr. Spears authorized TriStar to pay significant legal fees incurred in connection with this domestic violence matter from Miss Spears' estate. The fee petition that Mr. Spears submitted to the probate court included vague language about the nature of the services performed that obscured the fact that they were provided for James Spears' personal benefit. For example, a declaration by Miss Weil, his former counsel, attributed the $5,600 in legal fees in legal services performed by Freeman Law Firm on this matter. And this law firm is still wanting more money from Britney's estate. That's one of the fees we're fighting. Okay, so they attributed $5,600 on the matter to strategies to address certain child custody and related issues, negotiations with counsel for Kevin Federline, as well as communications regarding a related stipulation. Mr. Spears engaged in self-dealing in connection with the purchase and sale of Britney's childhood home. Mr. Spears also engaged in self-dealing in his capacity as a conservator. He purchased Britney Spears' childhood home for himself. Jamie and Lynn Spears originally purchased the childhood home in July 1980, which was subdivided into 3 parcels. In August 1986, the bank foreclosed on the parcel of land that included Britney Spears' family home. In February 2002, this Bridgemore LLC, an entity owned by Britney Spears, purchased the parcel from the bank for $56,000. In 2017, Mr. Spears petitioned the court to allow him to purchase his property from Bridgemore for $59,000. So that is literally like Britney could have like there's no way that a property in 2002 would not significantly increase in value in 2017. And plus it's Britney Spears' childhood home. Hello. But yeah, he only tacked on a few more grand, instead of, I'm sure it'd be tens of thousands of dollars more at least, if not, another 100,000 or something. You know how, the housing market has been. Among other reasons, Mr. Spears claimed that this was in the best interest of the conservatee, as the property had decreased significantly in value. I mean, that just opposes what I just said. I mean, I've not really heard of properties decreasing in value that much from 2002 to 2017, but okay, so let's see what else is going on here. So he claims that it decreased in value and had an ongoing tax burden and would result in a significant loss for Britney's estate. The court approved the sale to James Spears on this basis. God, the court. Ugh. In fact, however, the tax burden for the property was less than $57 in 2016. Are you kidding me? And then in February 2021, just 3 years later, the property, it sold for $275,000. There's no way. Yeah, no way. I know you guys are probably talking about that house because I think that was the house that also was for sale again, right? Let's see. So Mr. Spears sold land by Miss Spears at a heavy loss. Yeah, it was a heavy loss, and it's his fiduciary duty to look out for Britney's estate. It's just so many examples that's all self-dealing. It's all about him. In 2002, Miss Spears' entity, Bridgemore, purchased a 154-acre parcel of land in Louisiana for $682,000 and some. In March 2016, while James Spears was co-manager of Bridgemore, he sold this parcel of land to his niece and nephew for only $386,000 at a loss to the estate of almost $300,000. He does not care about Britney's estate and making money, and that's not even. They appointed him his duty is to help Britney's estate make money. Lauren Matthews, Nee Covington, is the daughter of Reginald Covington, Miss Spears' uncle and the former manager of Bridgemore. Mr. Spears also sold several additional Bridgemore properties to third parties at a collective loss of over $800,000. In May 2001, Bridgemore purchased 3 parcels of land in East Feliciana Parish for, about $2.8 million. In February 2015, when Mr. Spears managed Bridgemore, he sold these parcels of land to 3 separate parties in an aggregate total of $2.2 million, another loss of $500,000. In August 2002, Bridgemore purchased another parcel of land for $346,000, and then in March 2015, James Spears sold this for, again, a lower number, $257,000 at a loss for $90,000. In August 2002, same thing, bought land, about $1 million worth. And then in 2021, while Mr. Spears was the manager, he sold these parcels for less years later. What? In 2002, he bought it, and then in almost 20 years later, he sold it for less, for $815,000, less than $1 million, at a loss of more than $250,000. I mean, yeah, that's the loss, but they're not taking into consideration if that land was worth way more 20 years later. In 2 of the above 3 cases, Bridgemore reserved the right to oil, gas, and minerals in the soil after the sale. However, per financial records provided by or on behalf of the former co-conservator, these leases only earned Bridgemore $125,000 during the entirety of the conservatorship, an amount that does not appear to justify an aggregate loss of more than $800,000. So it's just so many examples of just throwing out Britney's money. Big Sloppy equals Alex Weingarten. I'm just reading your comments now, and everyone's just like, Big Sloppy, oh, is Sloppy Jamie? Basically, Sloppy represents Jamie. Bridgemore Timber is super sketchy. They also get paid for photos of Britney. If you Google Britney, it says Britney hiatus. What? Let's see. So thankful for everyone in the Britney army that went to the rallies, did the research, posted videos, and made us aware, and ultimately helped end Britney's conservatorship. I know. I'm so grateful for all. Like, people have beautiful souls, and that's been the best part of, all of this has been really traumatic, because you find out how the court systems assist in stripping someone's human rights. But what has brought me peace is the people that I've connected who decided to take a stand against this. And these people have such big hearts, and it's been the best part is you guys, and us and our community. Because otherwise we could lose our heads with how traumatic these abusers can be. Yeah, Britney hiatus says the worst real estate deal I've ever seen. Literally, I was actually shocked, because I haven't read this in a minute, and I'm just holy crap. Where did Britney's money go? I think there's a little highlight. Yeah, that's the thing. And they're not even providing all of the information with the accountings and whatnot. So where is Britney's money? That's a horrible deal. He lost lots and lots. I think the sales just look bad on paper. I don't believe anything they say or print. The worst businessman ever. He was told not to sell anything and didn't listen. Interesting. Okay, so Mr. Spears paid personal living expenses with estate funds. Mr. Spears also caused the estate to pay his own utility and other expenses at the Kentwood, Louisiana warehouse, where he resided for at least some period of time during the latter part of the conservatorship. That warehouse was owned by Miss Spears through her entity, Bridgemore, and a December 2017 lease agreement between Spears Management. Okay, so Spears Management, this is the LLC that just ended, right, you guys? Remember in the news, it said that is that what that is? It was we'll just check on that. But let's see. So between Spears Management, owned by Mr. Spears, and Bridgemore, managed by Mr. Spears, allowed Spears Management to occupy bay at number 3 at the warehouse. However, public records and media reports, including photographic evidence, show that Mr. Spears evidently occupied the entirety of the warehouse. Publicly available images of the property show the 3 larger bays being occupied by vehicles believed to belong to James Spears, including vehicles matching the descriptions of vehicles registered to James Spears Catering Company, Cooking, Cruising, and Chaos. Ugh. As well as images of Mr. Spears sitting at a desk speaking with another person inside the smaller bay. Per the lease of the single warehouse bay, dated December 13th, 2017, Mr. Spears was responsible for contracting directly for and paying all utilities needed, including telephone and alarm monitoring services. However, according to the financial documentation obtained from temporary conservator John Zabel, so here's another example of why John Zabel was a temporary conservator. They put him in there so they could get financial documentation that would otherwise not be available to somebody unless they had that sort of privilege like a conservator does. So when he was conservator for just that short amount of time, he looked into documentations from 2012 and 2020, which said Bridgemore, not Mr. Spears, paid one more than $11,000 to AT&T for phone services at the warehouse and close to $9,000 to Advanced Multimedia Partners for a lot of improvements, repairs, maintenance, alarm services for the warehouse. So he's just charging the estate. Mr. Spears did not partake to pay for these services that he enjoyed, even after he signed the 2017 lease that expressly allocated these expenses to him. Advanced Multimedia Partners, in an entity owned by James P. Watson, husband of Jamie Lynn Spears. Remember when she said they didn't make no money? Oh, well, what does this say over here? Mr. Spears, an Advanced Multimedia Partner is an entity owned by the Jamie Lynn Spears' husband. Mr. Spears allowed the estate to incur... Oh, I'm getting a phone call. Okay. Call them back. Mr. Spears allowed the estate to incur exorbitant expenses related to the Louisiana residence. Mr. Spears also used his daughter's money to pay substantial expenses for the renovation and upkeep of property owned by the estate on Lewiston Road in Kentwood, Louisiana. The property was purchased by Britney Spears in 1999 for $29,000. During the course of the conservatorship, the property had estimated fair market value of between $570,000 and $740,000. Based upon my review of QuickBooks data provided by TriStar, Ms. Spears' estate incurred exorbitant costs associated with the upkeep of these properties. Between 2009 and 2019, the estate paid more than $1.5 million in expenses, between 2 and 3 times the value of the house, with almost $1 million of that amount ostensibly spent on repairs and maintenance. So here we have the total expenses of $1.5 million. Wow. As referenced in the first supplemental, to the 7th account current, the court properly asked Mr. Spears to justify these extraordinarily high expenses. Why was it so high? Instead of answering the court actual inquiry about the high expenses associated with the Louisiana residence, Mr. Spears evaded the question and responded, "The expenses referred to are not for the Louisiana property, but are for the conservator's residence in California. To my knowledge, Mr. Spears failed to provide an explanation for the disproportionately high expenditure." So he didn't even explain what these, was it even for repairs and maintenance? Repairs and maintenance. What is that? What is that? They never even said what it was for. They're just spending money and filing it away. Oh, this was for expenses. This is for repairs. As referenced in the first... Oh, wait. Did I just read this? No. As referenced in the first one... Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes. So, yeah. Sorry, I got a little turned around. But here we are. So financial documentation obtained from TriStar via QuickBooks shows that $178,000 of the more than $1.5 million spent on the Louisiana residence was paid to Advanced Multimedia Partners. Oh, because what did we say? Who is Advanced Multimedia Partners? Jamie Lynn Spears' husband. Didn't she say she didn't get anything from Britney's conservatorship? Yeah, okay. Well, it says differently over here. Mr. Spears' son-in-law's company for the professional services, fees, repairs, and maintenance and unidentified charges related to this property from 2012 through 2020. Notably, nearly $60,000 of the funds paid to this entity were paid in 2014, the same year that Mr. Spears evaded the court's request for an explanation for the extraordinarily high expenses associated with this property. So they're not even saying what the expenses are. Were the expenses a new wardrobe for Jamie Lynn? What were the expenses? Was it for her Botox so we can't see the expressions on her face when she lies on her appearances, saying that she wasn't involved in the conservatorship. Wow. Taking money. And then they're not even explaining where the money is going. They just extraordinarily high expenses. What was it? $1.5 million. That explains why in Britney's book, she said, Jamie Lynn Spears, stop fighting the conservatorship. Stop fighting it. Oh, why? Because then you can't build the estate for extraordinarily high expenses for over $1.5 million that they are not even explaining what that was for. What repairs were you doing over there? Wow. Okay, so gross inequities in the disposition of Ms. Spears' earnings. So the Kroll's and forensics analysis of the available financial data has revealed inequities in the proportion of Britney's earnings that were paid at the direction of James Spears, including to himself, and in comparison with amounts retained by Britney's estate. So the publicly filed first account current shows that Britney's estate paid more than $2.7 million in attorney and other fees on behalf of the co-conservators, $400,000 for her court-appointed attorney fees, and another $1 million in miscellaneous business expenses. Oh, okay, casual. What is that? We don't know. Just miscellaneous. That are not itemized. Of course they're not. To cover these extraordinarily high expenses ostensibly needed to operate the conservatorship, Miss Spears' estate had to borrow more than $3.9 million from a pre-existing trust that held outside of the estate. I don't even think they were supposed to touch that. And another $5.7 million from her various entities. As noted above, Mr. Spears secured for himself a percentage of Britney's earnings on top of the six-figure salary that he was paid by the estate on a yearly basis, a salary that was ostensibly intended to compensate him for his work as a conservator, even though that money he was being paid for, that six-figure salary, his only job was to act in Britney's interest. So even though he was a fiduciary and had no apparent experience or talent, and he had no experience or talent as a manager or agent in the music business. He was a failed, he went bankrupt. He was a failed business person. He had an alcoholic. Based on the QuickBooks data obtained from TriStar, which again, Kroll has not been able to independently verify as of this date, Mr. Spears profited from his role as conservator in the amount of more than $6 million, which came directly from his daughter's estate as set forth the chart below. So this is what he earned yearly. What the hell is this in 2011? 1.8 million. This is wild. He made a total of over $6 million. They say 6 million. It's over 6 million. Just another casual 300 grand. Okay. Mr. Spears also approved the expenditure of more than 30 million fees to be paid by the estate to dozens of firms between 2008 and 2020. Review of fee applications and billing records submitted to the court show large payments for seemingly small matters, outsized fees for work of questionable or no benefit to Britney, and a great overlap in the work performed. So where did that $30 million go? What fees? As just one example, under the 12th accounting alone, just the 12th accounting, Holland and Knight, Vivian's law firm, sought over $1.3 million in fees, $541,000 of which was addressed to undefined media matters. So that's the fake news. They spent over $500,000 to go around all of these press tours and advocate for the conservatorship so that James Spears can keep making his millions. Conclusion. During his tenure as conservator, Mr. Spears used his role as conservator to enrich himself and those loyal or useful to him, often at the expense and against the best interests of his own daughter, whose assets, welfare, and best interests he was supposed to protect. Beyond the financial misconduct, Mr. Spears had actual and apparent conflicts of interest in violation of industry norms and the rules governing the conduct of a conservator, and also engaged in and directed others to engage in unconscionable violations of Britney Spears' privacy and civil liberties, which also implicates federal or state criminal violations of the law. And she declares this under penalty of perjury. It's dated 2 years ago, Shireen Abadi, and to this day, yesterday in court, they attempted to strike this from the record. Wow. So I just wanted to read it all to you guys. I know it took a while. I just wanted to do it for Britney. They're trying to hide their wrongdoings. And this is, the evidence that's been put out. There's more evidence that Matt said would come out in court. So I'll just read some of the comments. Larry gave Jamie 2% of his salary in 2011. So that's the bump. Thank you, Britney Hiatus. So knowledgeable. Thank you so much for all that you do. I always see you out there advocating for Britney, of course. So Britney Spears' sister could buy a really expensive quiet car and become a serial cat killer. Oh my God, I hate that story. They paid all the doctors. Oh God, these are the comments right now. I cannot imagine. Wait, I lost my place. Where did that go? I cannot imagine James Spears handling $30 fucking million. Come on, I know, Johnson. It blows my mind her family put her through so much and allowed all of this. Okay, $541,000 on propaganda, and it didn't even work. I know, I'm glad. Thank you guys for listening to all of that. It was like a lot. I was 27 pages, plus the court updates. So I know that was a lot, but I wanted to read it to you because of how long they spent in court trying to get it struck from the record. I love you guys so much. I feel so much more comfortable going live with you guys because of the support that you've given. And if you guys want to go through previous court hearings that I've done, I have them all in my highlights on Instagram, and I am going to start converting them on YouTube. And then I'm going to do a full 2023 court hearing recap so we can go through, what exactly was discussed in the discovery referee, what depositions has happened, what depositions are coming up that we need to listen for in court for the dates. And just kind of an overview of the hearings and the wins that Britney has had, because she has had a lot of wins. Despite things moving really slow and despite there not being criminal charges yet. But I love you guys. This has been a great stream. I guess I stop it from OBS. I'm such a noob. Okay. I love you guys. Will Lou have to literally sit in court or via online? So for the depositions, it's probably going to happen I think it happens they in a law office, so we wouldn't get to see it in court, but during the trial, maybe she would have to sit to have cross-examination. Like I'm totally guessing. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I only learned everything about law from like reading these documents with you guys and going to the courthouses. So I'm just, going off of what I know. Did they schedule another court hearing in Britney's case? Yes, they did. So they did say a few different dates. They really reiterated the trials dates, which again, the first trial is starting on May 13th. And then the second trial, which is really just the fees, is June 3rd. And then March 29th at 1:30, there is going to be a check-in. And I don't know if that's like a public hearing that I could go to, but I wrote it down. And it looks like April 15th at 1:30 is also a date I wrote down. So that could be an upcoming hearing as well. But I will, when the minute orders come out, I will absolutely... it will mention the dates for the next hearings, and I like follow along and I'll post about them because I do have like several dates written down. It gets confusing because they list out dates and then they go around asking if like people are available, and sometimes they're not. Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing the document. Everybody like make content about the Abadi Declaration because I feel like they wanted it struck from the record. And, I don't want to like upset Britney, like all this stuff is so traumatic, but I want accountability. So, and this document is something that, just outlines that there are federal or state criminal violations. And that's what we're trying to bring up. So all deposition videos always get released. I don't think so. Like some of them could be sealed. I guys imagine TriStar's gets hope TriStar's gets released. Again, I don't want anything like to make Britney uncomfortable, but we want to see a loose squirm. We do. So, okay. Everybody hit the like button before you go. Subscribe if you haven't. I feel like a real YouTuber saying that. So I love you guys. Like I keep reiterating that because community is so important. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for loving Britney. Thank you for loving each other and standing up for survivors and fighting for justice. So with that, and a little message from BJ. I love her. So inspired by her K-Bye merch. So from there, K-Bye.